Tick-tock, time to rock. Good evening, good morning, good afternoon to everyone who's watching from all over the world. It's your friendly neighborhood philosopher here, D. Wood. Yeah, we got sick of waiting for Ash, so we just decided to go ahead and go live. No, I totally forgot to share a file, as is very frequently the case. So I had to jump up and transfer that real quick. Anyway, here with Christopher.
Yes.
Defender of lions.
Indeed. Ina.
Guys, not sure you've been paying attention, but past couple years have been pretty crap years for the Dawa guys. Really bad. And so what are they doing? They're pushing the same stupid arguments they were pushing a couple years ago and stuff. But it really seems like they came out swinging over the past, I'd say starting in December. That's when they started, with all these shenanigans. I challenge you all to debate. But they're like, they all started posting way more and so on. Anyway, so we're still getting the Rebekah was 3 nonsense. And, I'm sitting here thinking we've already answered that 11,000 times. Well, guess what? In Islam, it's just the idea is that by relentlessly lying, they will overwhelm anyone who speaks the truth. So we're just going to have to also be completely relentless in responding to this nonsense. If we have to answer this idiotic nonsense 1,000,000 times, we're just going to do it until they're exposed as liars. And by the way, that's the positive side, right? They'll make stuff up, and it'll be kind of disheartening to lots of people to see how many of these guys are just willing to flat out lie about people they respect, right? They claim to respect Abraham. They claim to respect Isaac. They claim to respect Moses, and they'll just lie about them in a heartbeat. And as soon as one of them lies about something, they'll all start lying, and they'll all just share the same lie. And you're like, gosh, what can I do, man? What can I do? When they just want to lie like this and they don't care. Well, if we are also relentless in exposing the lies, that kind of exposes all of Dawah and exposes what Islam and exposes Islam as an antichrist religion. We respect all these people. We respect them. And we show our respect by lying about them. Weird, wild stuff. Hey, so what's up, Christopher?
Yeah, I'm good. Just been working myself to a bone on all the Talmud stuff. I've been doing the 2 videos a week, like you recommended, and they've been doing really good. So you can check those out. But going through the Talmud is a painful experience. Not because it's bad quality.
You see, Christopher said Jews are bad.
No, it's way more enjoyable than Bukhari or the Quran. It's like
that's good.
Infinitely more enjoyable. It's just long, and they repeat themselves a lot.
Hey, 1 second. Speaking of Jews. What?
Sorry, I choked a little bit.
Hey, hang on. Ash is in the green room, but there's no. Oh, there he is. There he is. All right, you ready, Ash? Nod your head if you're ready. You all set up? You want to wait? I don't know if you can hear me. Do you hear me, Ash? You are in the green room. Nod your head if you can hear me. Okay. All right. Didn't know if you're ready or still setting up. All right, here. Wait, why is Christopher in the middle? This is my show. There we go.
I'm on the right.
No, you're on the left.
I'm thinking if you're looking at the group of us, I'm on the right, but there is no group of us.
Oh, wait. Oh, no. That was before. Yeah, there we go. See? Now you're good.
Like if an audience was looking at us on a stage, I'd be on the right of the stage. You know what I mean? I'm to your right.
So you're going from our perspective, not what's actually on the screen in front of everybody. Good. All right, we're off to a great start here, ladies and gentlemen, with this awesome stuff. Anyway, right before you were on here, Christopher was saying how absolutely boring everything any Jew has ever come up with is, and I was saying that's terrible stuff. He's like, no, it's all so boring.
I had a comment on one of my videos, somebody saying, you're representing Judaism as this one thing, but Freud is also Jewish and all the postmodernists were Jewish. I'm like, the moment you've started to say that Freud and postmodernists are a branch of Judaism, you've lost it.
Yeah, Dennis Prager. We showed a clip of Dennis Prager one time, and this was after his accident. But he was saying there's no the Jews. you got. They'll say Jews started communism, and then the same time they'll turn right around and say Jews started capitalism. It's like, okay, so you understand they're not the same, right? You understand those guys. Those guys are not on the same team there. You'll have like on the right, and you'll have like on the extreme left, and you'll have atheist, and you'll have ultra orthodox, and you'll have everywhere in between, and you'll have Messianic Jews. And you'll have Jews who really don't like Jesus, and you'll have Jews who don't believe in Jesus, but they have a very favorable view of him. I heard that while I was over there. There are lots of Jews over there view Jesus as like a religious reformer who came along and exposed a bunch of hypocrisy. And so like, yeah, he's not the Messiah, but it's good. He exposed a lot of that stuff. So anyway.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's people in that audience that would say, yeah, we don't believe the New Testament version of Jesus in its entirety. We think that Jesus was like a rabbi who was a reformer, and then a bunch of other people claimed all these other things about him afterwards, right? So in those circles, like people that are educated on the topic and want to make like a debunk kind of thing, they'll go after Paul. Like that's the new target, you know?
Yeah, I also heard when I was over there,
crazy.
It was a Jewish woman was saying, she said, if Christians hadn't started calling him the Son of God, Jesus would have been one of the most famous rabbis of all time. So it was interesting stuff. Hey, so yeah, guys, we're just we started mentioning the Talmud here, and the Jews, because this is all connected to this discussion about the age of Rebekah. And the age of Rebekah being 3. And why do they say Rebekah was 3? Because we point out the 200 plus, over 200 Muslim sources saying that Aisha was 9 when Muhammad had sex with her. And so we point this out as a criticism, and the response is, it's always the same in Islam. It's, if you tell the truth about our fake prophet, we will lie about everyone in the Bible whom we claim to respect and believe in. It's weird stuff.
Yeah, it's
I will
kind of
say, in defense of that, there is steel manning the argument. There are a subgroup, small collection of rabbis that take the extreme literal orthodoxy stance from the Midrash Seder Olam Rabbah, just like they do with eliminating like 150 years from the Babylonian exile and the Persian period, which was done compressing the timeline in the Midrash for theological reasons. They'll take it as super literal, and they'll say, no, she was literally 3, and then they have to say all kinds of crazy things to justify it. But most of the rest of the Orthodox Jewish world will look at those people like they're totally nuts.
Right. Yeah, and that's what I find is the really interesting part here, right? Because the case from the Bible is absolutely insane. You have to be borderline nuts to actually go through the Bible and say, "Yep, she was 3," right? Now looking at what the text says and so on. But you did have some rabbis. Who said it, and if you believe that this was the tradition that was passed down, and this tradition goes all the way back, and it somehow made it down to them, and you take these rabbis seriously, because keep in mind, you can't take them all seriously because they're saying different things. But if you take this particular rabbi as the best source or something like this, and he said that she was 3, and okay, well this is the reliable tradition that came down. What's interesting is that Muslims will insist that we have to accept that, and that we have to accept that age, right? Like, yeah, that's the insane part, right? Here's the thing: I can tell a Muslim Ibn Kathir said something. I can say Ibn Kathir said this, right? One of the greatest all-time Muslim commentators. They'll reject Ibn Kathir in a heartbeat if they just disagree with what he's saying. And I don't think that's what the verse is saying. And this other commentator, he said this, and this other commentator said that. It never crosses their minds that they have to take a commentator as authoritative. And as Ash is pointing out, there are certain Jews who would take that as authoritative. On what planet would I take that as authoritative? Here's the thing. If a Jewish rabbi is commenting on the Bible and he's got a good argument and he's right, okay, he's right. But what's he showing it to me from? He'd be showing it from the Bible, and I would accept that. But just saying a rabbi said it, and you look at the Bible and it's like, that doesn't look like what that's saying at all. No, you have to go with this guy. Why? Why do we have to go with him? Why are Muslims insisting that we have to go? Well, not with all rabbi, with a particular rabbi who's saying what they want to say, because they think that gets them off the hook with Muhammad, and that's just so insanely dumb. But let me put it this way: even if they were right, if Muslims were right, and we have to take this rabbi as authoritative, not this rabbi who contradicted him, but this rabbi as authoritative, and we have to take him, and therefore she was 3, what would that mean? Would that mean, oh, I have to take what Isaac did as okay for me right now? What planet do they live on? That would also be weird.
Prophets are sinless, so if a prophet does it, it's automatically moral.
That's what I mean. They're reading their own ideas of prophets. Prophets sinned pretty frequently in the Old Testament, and the Old Testament doesn't try the Old Testament doesn't try to hide it. It exposes when someone does something wrong.
I mean, you will have
the Talmud in Shabbat has a reconfiguring of that. It's like in Shabbat 55a, it talks about how if anyone says that David sinned, they're like wrong, and that goes through like a bunch of the different prophets, and like if you say this person sinned, you're mistaken. Yeah. Okay. So they say that Uriah was already off on the war, so they were like legally divorced at the time, and they say Uriah was an idol worshiper, if I remember correctly. So they account to him sin, say that he deserved to be killed, and Bathsheba wasn't married. So they're entirely reinterpreting the text to make David not a sinner in that instance.
There's some. I took one class in Judaism back in college, so this would have been like 2003 or 2004, but there was some really weird but interesting stuff in there in some of the passages we read, like saying that Abraham did kill Isaac, and he did kill him, and then went away, and stuff like that. It's like, what? It's not what the text says. And anyway, and they were saying that they were this was a long time ago, but it was something like Babylon after the Babylonian captivity and stuff like that. It was like them trying to grapple with the idea of just like how horrible things could happen. And anyway, it's a while back, but I remember it's like stuff, and it's like, that's not what the text says there. But anyway, it's Muslims, they insist on this particular issue. You have to go with this particular rabbi because he says what is needed to exonerate Muhammad, even though it wouldn't exonerate Muhammad at all.
So I had told Chris in a stream we did together about a story, like bringing a passage from the Talmud that was actually using a mythological fantasy idea to justify a legal ruling about hyenas turning into bats. And I asked the rabbi I was studying with, who was like the head of the Beit Din of the city that I was living in, like a very learned scholar. And I asked him, I was like, it seems like the answer that this rabbi is giving is so bizarre because he's being sarcastic. Like, why would you ask me such a stupid question in the first place? And then he goes, no, it's literal. And I was like, are you being sarcastic?
No, I'm being so literal right now.
There's such wacky stuff all over Midrash and the Talmud. Like, to assume, even in Orthodox Judaism, you don't take massive portions of this. You don't take it as literal. The entire methodology of argumentation in Midrashic literature, it goes to extremes of ideas and then works it out. So you're not meant to read these things and go, oh, that's literal. Now, there are some instances where certain rulings that are not contradicted are then taken as literal, which creates problems for certain rulings that still exist in the Jewish community today. But for the most part, that's not the case. There's always further discussion about it.
My favorite part about that hyena passage is the hyena becomes a bat, and then a different type of bat, and then a thistle, then a thorn, and then a demon.
Yeah.
Every 8 years, it changes to a new.
Only
demon.
Male hyenas.
So the male hyenas become female hyenas, and then that becomes a bat, and then it becomes a vampire bat.
The difference between the males and the females is that the males go through this transformation process, and the females don't.
I don't know what you guys are laughing at. That happened to me the other day.
Did you observe a
Your
hyena
became a demon?
No, I actually turned into
38 years in captivity.
No, I turned into a hyena.
I just gave away that I can't do math.
I turned into a hyena, and then a what? A bat. Hey, there's weird stuff in the Muslim sources too. You know that?
Yeah.
There's that awesome story. I got to review it because I forget exactly what I remember the story, but I forget what the weird combination was. But it was when this was after Muhammad died, and it was later on, and they had kept Muhammad's toothbrush. Look, we have Muhammad's toothbrush. Yeah, we got his muswak. Look at this. And some guy was making fun of him, and they're like, we got his muswak. And the guy grabbed it and shoved it up his own butt. He's like, this is what I think of Muhammad's toothbrush. Shoved it up his own butt. But then he became pregnant, and as a curse, and then he gave birth to
fish, rat,
fish,
mouse,
rat,
fish, rat, lion. It had a tail of some creature.
It's a fish.
So it had the head of a fish, the body of a rat, and the tail of something else.
Fish, rat, yeah, something. So this guy gave birth. It was one other creature. It was a fish, rat, something baby that was born out of his butt. And I'm sitting there thinking, well, that toothbrush had Muhammad's DNA on it. So if that impregnated this dude, then it's like Muhammad. This is Muhammad's baby, man.
Mm-hmm.
Weird stuff. Weird stuff.
All right, so I didn't hear all that.
What's up?
I'm gonna try to pretend I didn't hear all that.
Oh, you're gonna hear about it. You're gonna be hearing about some weird stuff this year, Ash, because after seeing the awesome success of just when you share a story like Muhammad on the night of Al-Zut, and then how people start running with that, we're like, oh gosh, here are like a dozen stories that are really messed up. Do we want to just go with one of them all year? Do we want to like kind of just go through all of them and just do all of them over and over again? Weird, wild stuff. All right, guys. So we'll probably take these super chats before we start playing Chris's video. But what are we all thinking on this? What are we all thinking on this issue? Why are we here right now? Because Chris, you're the one who said, hey, we should talk about Rebekah.
Yeah, my video mostly goes through the Genesis account. It doesn't go as much through the Midrash. I have the Midrash, and I know the Midrash. I talked about Seder Olam and Rashi a little bit, and then Hezekiah's response to it. But I didn't go that deep into the video. On my YouTube video,
that's in your video?
Of that,
that's in your video?
Yeah, it's in my video.
You actually commented? Oh, okay, yeah, because I kind of scrolled through it, and I saw you were focusing on Genesis and breaking things down and so on. So
yeah.
I can address that after that. There's like more modern takes on it from like the non-Hasidic side of things, like the Vilna Gaon, how he addressed the issue. And then on the Hasidic side, the last rabbi of Chabad, Menachem Mendel Schneerson, who relied heavily on Rashi in a lot of his work, still doesn't take it as literal, to my understanding, and had some explanations there as well. So we could cover that. Even the ones that do say the 3-year-old thing, they take it as allegorical to express a different idea.
Oh,
yeah,
really?
I have a list of like 7 resources that reject it, and all of them place it as older than Aisha. So,
hang on, it's sounding kind of weird. Like Ash thinks that the way Nick Fuentes and crew read the Talmud just isn't correct.
Something like that.
That's interesting. All right, let's take these first couple of super chats, and we'll jump into Chris.
I think the way he reads Candace Owens is correct.
Oh yeah, yeah. How can he be so right over here and so wrong over
there? Candace Owens is a scholar. What do you mean?
Yeah, she's the
world's greatest scholar of religion. I'm trying to come up with a sketch to do where I'm like being interrogated as a Jew by like a neo-Nazi who's like captured me and like responding that I'm actually Catholic, but they can't reconcile that I'm Catholic and a Jew. And Candace Owens told them that.
Yeah, Candace Owens, she said that. She said you can't be like, I posted a bunch of quotations where Paul's like, hey, I'm a Jew. And then like in at the end of Romans where he greets all these people in the Church of Rome and he's like, and hey, shout out to so-and-so and so-and-so, my fellow Jews. And
yeah, like, I think it should end with like, you can't be Catholic and Jewish. 9. Be like, who told you that? Be like, Candace Owens.
You know, as you were saying you'd like to do that skit, and I was thinking who'd be great to play a Nazi. I'm sitting here looking at this blonde-haired dude on the other side of the screen, thinking, man.
My mom's from Berlin, which is really funny.
You'd have to be at least 6'2", though. Are you at least 6'2"?
No, I'm short. I'm 5'10".
Because I'm 6'1", and the Jew is always small.
I'm gonna have to play it, aren't I?
Yeah.
My
the Jew is always smaller.
Yeah, my
I could wear like stilettos and be super elevated.
Oh yeah, you'd just be standing on a box the entire time looking down.
Just put my seat lower if it's at a table.
My oldest son is bigger than I am. He's like 6'4". And yeah, I don't know. Maybe we'll figure something out. Let's see. Hey, D Wood, you might want to hear Netanyahu speaking about helping to protect the Christian communities in the Middle East and Africa 4 days ago in Florida. That's cool. That'd be good. Someone took some steps. I tried convincing my Jewish friend to read the New Testament, but he said it's anti-Semitic. He also showed me Martin Luther's final work on the Jews and their lies. I was shocked. Any advice to lead him to Christ? You had Martin Luther had kind of two different stages. One where he was like
Catholic,
really friendly towards Jews, and then where he became really, really hostile. He really seemed to think that once you got back to just the Bible and not all the extra stuff, that Jews would embrace it. And so he had a really favorable view, and then went off the deep end and said some of the most messed up stuff ever. So, I don't think you'll convince your friend that Martin Luther was on the right side of that issue. As far as the New Testament, my view is like, if you're saying, calling out Jews for doing this wrong or that wrong is anti-Semitic, you've got the entire Old Testament to deal with, because it's pretty standard calling people out. What are your thoughts on that, Ash, as the resident Jew?
Yeah.
Oh, excuse me, you're Christian.
Martin
Now you can't be a
Luther,
Jew. Sorry.
Right. Martin Luther obviously went totally bonkers with the anti-Semitism stuff. There's like a whole culture of artwork in Germany that still exists, you can find, called Judensau, which depicts Jews doing all kinds of wacky things with pigs as like a demeaning thing, that mostly stemmed from like German Protestants after the Reformation. But it has nothing to do with whether or not the New Testament is or isn't anti-Semitic. Martin Luther has nothing to do with that.
Wait, you mean that book written? You mean the New Testament written by Jews?
With the exception of Luke, I think every other author in the New Testament is a Jew. And there's rulings against reading what's called like extra biblical material from the Talmud that goes into halachic rulings about whether or not you're even allowed to read the New Testament. People should just look at the fact that all the anti-missionaries and all the anti-Christian groups in the Jewish, ultra-Orthodox Jewish world who deal with that kind of stuff, they're all reading the New Testament and they don't have an issue with it, purely for the sake of polemic. So you should be able to read it. It is written by Jews earlier than any other rabbinic writings that we have today. It's much earlier than that. And you need to read it to understand that it's absolutely not anti-Semitic. Even the most like rough parts as far as condemning Jews for different things is in the same way that any prophet of Israel condemned the Jewish people for sin. And then I did see something like an old clip of Emmanuel Shochet like ranting about how bad of a person Jesus was. Totally missing the point. I think a lot of people don't understand the claim of Christianity, that Jesus is literally God of the Old Testament. And so when they go, Jesus said all these horrible, horrible things, it's like demeaning and condemning things to people. It's like, have you read what God has said in the Old Testament to people? Because if the claim is true, then it's the same thing. You'd have to first presuppose that it's false for no actual intellectual reason in order to then make the claim that he's bad for saying these things. So you have to read it to understand that context. So if just saying, I'm not going to read it because it's anti-Semitic, then you have no reason to think that. You're just hearing what somebody for the sake of polemics has told you without actually addressing it for yourself on an intellectually honest level. And
it was interesting. It was, I don't know, 2 weeks ago or maybe less than that, played a clip of Rebekah, who's a Jewish atheist when I knew her. I don't know if she's changed her mind about that at all, but she's Jewish. When I talked to her, she was Jewish atheist living in Israel. But she posted a video and she was crying after reading the Gospel of Mark. And she was just saying, like, she realized she's reading about life as in first century Israel before the destruction of the temple. And she just was reading it and, hey, I'm reading about Israel, first century, and what life was like, and started crying. Interesting stuff.
It is worth noting for like just telling them to read Matthew chapter 1, because that's one of the most Jewish things in the New Testament. The very first paragraph of the New Testament is extremely Jewish. It's the genealogy of the Messiah, and he uses gematria. Like, you can't really get more Jewish than that, as far as the New Testament goes.
That's pretty darn Jewish. That's like, you saw Ash's eyes light up when you said gematria.
Not for good reason.
Yeah. I'm dyeing my hair blonde on Tuesday. I see AP beat me to it. Oh yeah, you're that means you, Christopher. You're AP. 30 seconds in and Ash already broke everyone's brain. That's right. D-Wood, don't you dare read this super chat so I can complain tomorrow that you didn't read it. Also, could we get an updated chart on the Islamic dilemma showing all the ways Dawa guys respond and how it doesn't help them? You will be getting all of that here in the first quarter of this year. So we have a bunch of stuff. We haven't announced it and so on, but we're getting we're going to have a bunch of stuff. All the stuff that we were putting together last year, we're going to put out in video form and website form. We're having everything professionally recorded and so on, a few of us. So going to be super awesome. And then we're going to make kind of a shorter, not sure whether to make it a shorter series of short videos or just one like good solid 30-minute video on the Islamic dilemma. But we're also going to pass that out to people around the world and have it translated and re-recorded. In other words, we don't want subtitles. We don't want some AI thing. We want people in different countries translating the entire thing and re-recording it, putting it on their own channels, and then we'll have a list of where people can get the presentation in all these different languages and so on. So it'll be super.
You know what's really interesting about the Islamic dilemma? I don't address anything at all to do with Islam on my channel, like at all. But I've had some Muslims recently commenting on my video on Maimonides, as well as on how certain aspect, like if the claims that like Christians corrupted the scriptures by, Jews, how there may be certain things that were intentionally modified later by the Masoretes in response to Christianity. And they responded to those videos like, hey, if you're saying that these rabbis changed things about Jewish theology, and if you're saying the rabbis might have warped this or this verse, so you're saying that we were right, that you guys did corrupt the scriptures. And I'm like, one, that would still not count, because all the meaning for meaning translations are the same between all these manuscripts. Even if there's small variances here and there between Jews and Christians, it still says the same thing. But further, I'm talking about changes that happened in like the 9th, 10th, 11th centuries under Islamic pressure in some cases, later than when the Quran came to be. So it doesn't, like, I don't see why, like, how does that make sense for them at all? Like how that would line up. That doesn't seem to add up at all.
Dizzle, since I missed you in Boston, could we correspond via email? And where can I find your email address? Well, you can find my email address on my YouTube channel homepage. As for corresponding, that depends. If you want some long correspondence, probably not going to happen. And it's just, I think I have what? Hang on. I will give you the count. I'll give everyone the count once more. I have 220,105 unread emails in my inbox. And that's just the result of like getting 50 messages a day. Hey, how do I respond to this guy who said this and so on? And so it's basically sometimes if I see something I can respond to it quick, I'll just, respond quickly. And other times if I'm like, I've just made a couple videos and stuff. I know I've got videos for the week and stuff like that. I'll start going through and responding to a bunch. But lots of times it's like, if I even try to respond to a bunch of these emails right now, I won't be able to make a video. And I normally favor making the video, that's actually a tough call, because I read about C.S. Lewis, and he responded to everyone who ever wrote him. And it was pointed out, he could have written 3 or 4 times as many books, but he always responded, like thoroughly responding to everyone who ever wrote him.
Yeah, but he was getting snail mail by like,
that's what I mean. It is.
Sure, yeah.
I don't think he would have been able to do that if it was email and everyone is emailing him here and there. But yeah, let's see. I am here to leer. Nick Shirley reference. I still haven't watched the Nick Shirley stuff, so I don't know what leer means here. I know King Lear. Libs of TikTok fraught with Somalia embassy Libs of TikTok fought with Somalia embassy on X. You mean like physically? That'd be interesting. Rebekah was strong enough at 3 to carry water jugs. Who's the top G now? Andy Tate. Yeah. Andrew Tate couldn't even water 10 camels. Seaman fingers.
He was trying really hard, though.
Oh. Yeah. So the video I put out yesterday is going through Joseph in the Talmud. And it talks about how he wanted to have intercourse with Potiphar's wife. And he saw the image of his father in the window telling him, hey, you know your name's going to be on the ephod. Don't do this. God's going to take care of you. But he was still, interested. So he stuck his fingers into the ground and emitted fluid from his fingertips. And Ibn Kathir and Al-Tabari use that exact same explanation of the Quran verse that it talks about Potiphar's wife and him wanting to have intercourse with her. That's part of the Talmudic dilemma I put out on Friday.
Powerful. I want to check that out. Talmud is collections of rabbis' opinions. Some are wild. Not what matters is Mishnah and the final halakha. The rest is just Kentucky Jackson rambling. Correct this, Ash.
That's mostly pretty accurate.
Oh.
Yeah.
I humbly apologize, Paul.
Thousands of pages of discussions between rabbis over centuries. Some of it may have been written by the rabbis compiling the Talmud, retrofitted to what earlier rabbis may or may not have said. And then, the Mishnah has kind of like the source text of what's important to discuss. The Talmud discusses it. And then you have final halachic rulings on what different individual Jewish communities will take as final legal ruling.
Is that mostly coming from like Torah Mishnah with Rambam? Or what's
the final like Rambam's one of the earliest like codifying Jewish law. The most like the primary one used by most Jews through the world as like the definitive text would be like the Shulchan Aruch, which is like 15th century. And then there's commentary on the Shulchan Aruch by Moshe Isserlis, which is where he differs from Yosef Karo, is where Ashkenazi Jews will usually follow the ruling. And then there's Mishnah Brura, and there's other documents that come after, and then local custom from there.
I have to say that's a pretty cool name.
Which name?
Well, whenever I hear Rambam, I grew up in the 80s, and so we had Transformers, and before Transformers took off, it was He-Man. And anyway, there was a He-Man action figure and character on the cartoon called Ram Man. And I'll never forget him because it was third grade. It was third grade, ladies and gentlemen. And they had a gift exchange. We had to draw names. We had to draw names out of a hat and stuff. And that was totally random, but I got the same kid who got my name, just randomly taking them out. And it was John Copper, this dirtbag. So I had to get him a present, and he had to get me a present. My mom, because I didn't have any money, so my mom went and got him Ram Man, which I never got Ram Man. So she gets a cooler toy for this kid who's not even hers than I got. But anyway, she gets him Ram Man. And then this kid got me a puzzle. And that wasn't the worst thing. So we exchanged gifts in class right before Christmas break. And then this kid gives me a puzzle, but then all the kids start playing with their toys at the Christmas party. And he's sitting there playing with Ram Man. And Ram Man is like on a spring, so you could like condense him, and then you push the button, and then because he rams people. Not the Zoot sense, but he rams people. One of the Zoot guys could be nicknamed Ram Man. But so I'm like, hey, can I try it once? He's like, no, it's mine. He wouldn't even let me try it once. So I wanted to beat the crap out of him, but he was like a total dork. So I couldn't beat him up.
I hate to disappoint you, but Rambam sounds cool, but that's not the actual pronunciation of it. It's an abbreviation for Reb Moshe ben Maimon.
You don't need to ruin it. Rambam.
Hold on a second. The pronunciation, if you're Jewish reading it in Hebrew, like with how Jews pronounce it, would be Rambam, which is a lot less cool.
But that is. So let's go with the cool pronunciation.
Someone in the chat said Rambum. Isn't that what the also did to Muhammad?
Yeah, Rambum. Yeah. Anyway, hey, and you know how messed up this is? Like, One day I went on eBay and I was about to buy a Ram Man just so I could try it because I didn't get to in third grade. I was about to buy a vintage Ram Man just so I could. I never got to try it my entire life. I never got to. Anyway, weird stuff. Aisha was 30 feet tall and looked like an ex-Soviet female wrestler. True. Stop upsetting Momo's followers. Just kidding. Love your work. Hello. From, where is that? Germany? Can't tell the little tiny thing. What is the name of the creature that came out of that guy's butt? Ratfish had rabbit back legs, by the way. There we go. It was rabbit fish.
No rabbit.
There we go. Thank you, Christian Gadfly, who stays. You're kind of up to date on this stuff, Christian Gadfly, on all these weird.
We did a stream on it a couple days ago.
Oh, well, you had to say that. I was going to say he's just really obsessed with these weird things. Ash, I sent you is 9 video to my. Oh, I sent. Your is 9 video to my Old Testament professor. Long story short, he takes the multiple fulfillment view. I haven't responded to him yet. Do you know what that's about?
Yeah, I mean, most messianic prophecies in the Bible have like an immediate context.
Oh, is that Isaiah 9? I thought it said is 9. Yeah. I thought it was something about.
And then
Aisha
there's
for a
like
second.
the future messianic context as well. I don't see how Isaiah 9 does though. I have to look at it again and check on that. But as far as I know, there's no real way to assign that to a contemporary person.
Mm-hmm. If you read the unabridged minutes of the ecumenical councils that records everything that every bishop said, you will find some wild stuff. Oh yeah, that's when when people are like when like Nick Fuentes or someone from one of the Groypers says, look, the Talmud says this. See, this is what Jews believe. And they'll even say, and you need to be worried about that because the bank manager at your bank believes that, and he's there to ultimately destroy you and stuff. And it's just like, that's what I say. I say, guys, if you had a record of every Christian debate that's ever happened, Catholics, Protestants, and so on, every debate, and then you just picked out any quotation you wanted and said, this is what Christians believe. That you'd sound completely insane.
When anyone ever says the Talmud believing Jews who believe this stuff about Jesus control the banks and the finances and the media, I always play this little game where I go, look, the ones that believe that Jesus is boiling in excrement are not the ones that control the banks and the media. And they go, oh, okay, wait a second. You're saying there are some that control the banks and the media?
You heard it here, folks. Ash finally admitted it. Ash admits the truth. The Jews control the banks. Glad you're covering this. There's a lot of Muslim channels talking about Rebekah right now and the Trinity. Yeah, we're going to talk about it here just to set the stage. And we're going to go through Chris's video, and that video is shorter than this live stream. So we want everyone to understand, make sure everyone understands everything and how the Dawa guys are using it and all that stuff, and how to respond to it. But you can share his video, and we'll be dealing with this all year, guys, because they're getting desperate. Did you hear Trump got a president in his stocking? That's messed up. Nordine, I sent you an email. I hope you'll respond. Thanks. Back in the day, there was a music video called Champagne Showers. AP should redo it as Golden Showers, featuring Mojab and the Dawa Boys. Yeah. Mojab likes his golden showers. It's always weird. We always say this stuff, and I always forget that there are people in here who don't know the background, that he actually sent us all these messages about golden showers and so on. Resource for extra biblical books like Cliff Note. You guys have any thoughts on that? Just read the Bible, man.
You're talking about the church fathers. There's good summaries of those, but I can't think of any summaries for the deuterocanonical or the apocryphal books.
But C.S. Lewis met his wife by replying to her letter. That's true. I've been attacked by ketchup Mossad packets. Make a video, man. Make a video. Hey, Dewa, did you catch the link to the evidenced argument for the sales optimization theory? If not, I'll link you in the comments. You sent me an email on that, right? I think you sent me an email on that. Mishnah codified 250 AD by Rabbi Judea. Rambam organized it in more understandable way, but still considered halakhi source, even though he is an Amorai. I understood half the words there.
That's not really accurate this time.
Oh,
Sorry.
In your face. And here we have Rambam is greater than Ramallah, or Ramallah, if you're talking about the city. That is funny that it's called Ramallah. I just saw a comedian the other day said, hey, if they think Islam's so great in Pakistan, why is their capital city named Islamabad? Thought that was kind of stupid, but it's kind of funny too. Sanhedrin, Jesus was resurrected. Sanhedrin 106a, followers could heal. What is our concern for Jews?
Not sure what they're referencing there.
I think they're just saying that
there's anywhere in the Talmud that says Jesus was resurrected.
Right.
Well, right there. Jesus crucified, 33. That's Sanhedrin 106b.
There's references to Jesus being hanged from a tree or being stoned. There's different accounts of it.
Which part of Sanhedrin 106a? Sanhedrin 106a. Right there. We'll have to check that out sometime. See what it says. And then we will come back and expose you if you're wrong. CC 12. The word Talmud means instruction, just like how Muhammad instructed Abdullah ibn Masud to stay behind the line on the night of Al-Zut. Yeah, so what are Muslims complaining? That's why Muslims like the Talmud so much now. All right. Should we jump into this video?
Yes.
Have you seen this video, Ash? Interesting. All right, guys.
I've had whole family's been sick for about 2 weeks, so
all right. So I haven't seen it. You haven't seen it. Chris made it, so he has an idea of what's in it. But we're going to check it out.
And it's 6 months old, so it's not recent.
All right, guys. This
is
Chris.
Something you just did?
No, it's half a year ago. Yeah.
Why you give me a video from half a year ago? I guess because they still keep bringing this up. All right, here we go, guys. We're going to see if Chris is accurate.
According to ancient Jewish norms, a man can marry and have sex with a girl as young as 3. This ruling is found in the Talmud and is based on the precedent set by the Jewish prophet Isaac, who married Rebekah when she was 3 and he was 40.
So the Bible does not speak about the age of marriage, number one. Number two, we've got Rebekah marrying Isaac at the age of 3 years old. She was 3.
Hey, wait a minute. I'm just right off the bat, I'm thinking of this lineup here. So you just had Daniel Hikikachu, the world's leading defender of child marriage and first cousin marriage. And here you got the Muslim lantern who was just exposed by Malik, their Dawa buddy, but he got ticked off and he exposed Muslim Lantern, Sneeko, the Warner, all the stuff they're into. And their words, these guys are all going around smashing hoes. They go out and do Dawa at the park. They'll raise money to go on their Dawa trip. Then they'll go make videos of them handing out Qurans at the park for their channels and so on. After that, they all hit the club, they pick up girls and they go back and, in their words, smashing hoes, running trains on them and stuff. Some of these guys stay high and so on. And anyway,
he started with something ridiculous. Jewish tradition does not allow for that. We don't reference any behaviors based on what anyone in the Bible did, in fact. If we're talking about like the Mishnah, for example, I believe it is Yehuda Anasi, the one who compiled the Mishnah, that said, and this is basically understood to be the idea in Jewish culture, if you were to marry off a daughter who is old enough to be married, but who has not consented to the marriage or is not quite old enough to really choose who she wants to be married to, you're bringing a curse on your entire family. It's very much understood in Jewish culture that you don't do that. You wait till a girl is old enough to choose who she wants to marry.
She has to give consent.
Yeah, it has to be a consent. There's all kinds of other qualifications, but it's just it's a blatant lie just to start off with.
Well, who are we supposed to believe?
Oh, there's many of those.
Hang on. Who are we supposed to believe when we're being instructed on what the Talmud says? You, Ash, or Daniel Hakikachu, the world's most reliable source of information on all things related to Jews and sex with children?
years old.
Secondly, according to Jewish tradition, the age of marriage, and this comes from Genesis 21 and 22, where Isaac marries Rebekah at the age of 40 years old. But
hey, do you recall?
Is that his Bible?
how old was Rebekah?
Yes, it is.
According here to Genesis.
Hold on a second.
20.
What?
Notice
This
how
is the
deep he's flipping
Ignatius-
into the book.
Study Bible. This is as big as a Bible can be.
Right.
His has fancy artwork in it.
Oh,
Hang
yeah.
on,
does,
let's
yeah.
see what here. I'm really interested because he's saying this is in the Bible. Let's see. Hang on.
22, where Isaac marries Rebekah at the age of 40 years old. But how old was Rebekah? Well, according here to Genesis 21 and 22, we find that Rebekah was only 3 years old.
You guys find that in either Genesis 21 or 22? Do you find even
No.
a mention of her age at all? Genesis 21 or 22?
No.
This is
He
seriously
also
like
flips to he flips to Second Kings. He goes way past Genesis and he pretends he's flipping to Genesis. So dumb.
He's only reading the pictures, man. Cut him some slack.
what's I mean, seriously, I just want to play that clip and then just read all of Genesis 21 and 22 and say, where did it say she was 3? He just acted. And keep in mind how deceptive this is. Muslims, they're just listening to this guy. They have no idea what's in Genesis 21 or 22. And they're just going, oh,
Right.
he's got a big Bible and he's saying it's in there. So obviously it's in there. Muslims, and what's amazing is you could sit there and read all of Genesis 21 and 22 to them. They would still not have a problem with him just flat out lying like that. Muslims, this would be like me going, and according to, Surah such and such right here, Muhammad banged a bunch of goats. Yep, right here. He was banging goats all the time. Says it right there. Yep. Anyway, it's right in there. Yeah. Suddenly, you guys, your reasoning ability would click on. You go, hey, that's messed up that you're just making crap up. But for some reason, the rules change. If he's talking about the Bible, then it's okay.
The ultra sad part is it's Genesis 24, so he didn't even get the chapter right. Genesis
yeah.
22 is wherever Rebecca's listed in the birth narrative.
Yeah. The only part. Yeah, the only
doesn't
part
give
there
the
is
age.
at the end of Genesis 22. That,
Right.
by the way, that's the part they always lie about. That's the part they always lie about.
Right.
So I think that's why I mentioned 22. But 21? What are you even talking about, dude?
That's the death of Sarah at 127. So they use 21 and 24 to date to 37 and 40.
Do they know there's a bunch of other children of that guy listed along with Rebecca at the
No,
same
they
time?
never read
No,
it.
they don't.
No, they all do the
Possibly
exact
be an
same thing.
indicator of age.
They all just
Are
say
they quadruplets? They must have been quadruplets
my-
or something.
No, octuplets. There's 8 kids.
Octuplets, right.
My favorite part is Bethuel is the father of Rebecca, and they're in the same list.
Yeah.
So
No,
if
they
you
can't-
want to say they're all born at the same time, then the
Or-
dad and the daughter.
Yeah, it's like Russian nesting dolls. He's born out, and then within him is like this girl who also popped out. Anyway, yeah. But we'll yeah, I'm sure you'll be checking that out. But
And this is confirmed by all rabbinic scholars.
When is she halal to be married? How long did he wait for from her birth?
He would wait until she would be fit for relations, 3 years, and he married her. Subhanallah.
Isaac, according to the Bible, was 40 years old when he married a 3-year-old Rebekah.
God's mother married Joseph when he
he just said, according to the Bible. I just wish they'd show us the passage because
was 90 and she was 12. And even Isaac marrying in the Old Testament, Rebekah.
Since Isaac was 37 when his mother died, and he was 37 when Rebekah was born. So Rebekah would be how old? 3 years old.
Isaac was 37 years old when Rebekah was born, and Isaac was 40 years old when Rebekah, at the age of 3 years old, was married to Isaac. Lie.
oh, hang on. Oh yeah, here's Muhammad Hijab. I got his tweet and stuff. Yeah, so guys, you can actually spot the lie here. Watch this. Sarah gave birth to Isaac at 90. Genesis 17. She died at 127. Genesis 23, meaning Isaac was 37 when she passed. And here's the lie. The Mount Moriah incident, Genesis 22. They always lie about Genesis 22, guys. Everyone, you just have to become familiar with the end of Genesis 22. The Mount Moriah incident, Genesis 22, and the birth of Rebekah occurred simultaneously. Lie. Genesis 22 actually says that's when Abraham heard, because keep in mind, he moved a long way away. he finally heard news from everything that had been going back home, and he found out about all his relatives. And it mentions Rebekah there. And so they say, see, that's right when Rebekah was born. Really? So that's when all those people were born, including her father, right? Because it mentions all of his family members that have been born.
This is the logic the rabbis use, though.
I know it's like screwed up, and like, hey, if you reason in some really sloppy fashion, then don't expect me to go along with it.
Because the same rabbis that are writing that in other midrashic sources of the same time repeatedly cite the fact that the Bible is not listing everything in chronological order, and that's why some things are out of order. It's very clearly a compression of time in the same way that they do with the Babylonian exile to make a statement of something theological later on. Even the sources that say that it turns out she's 3 years old don't actually believe it, obviously, internally within those texts.
Right. Like Rashi.
Although Rashi's kind of weird. Rashi's kind of weird and does insane things.
So Rashi, whenever I read it, it seems to be a little unclear whether or not he thinks that he waited 3 years for her to be 14, which is how some later rabbis interpreted Rashi, or if Rashi meant she was literally 3. I've seen it seems like
Rashi
ways.
Thinks she was literally 3.
Literally
but he's yeah, but he's also the Rashi is the one that also says the snake in the garden was literally just a snake, but also wanted to have intercourse with Eve. So Rashi's not really the best one to point to for sexual morals and ethics.
This is what every Christian has to believe now because the rabbi said it. Dawa, guys, dawa.
But as I mentioned, there's modern rabbis who are experts on Rashi who explain how there's allegory at play there to point to certain other principles, which we can get into.
Was Rebekah 3 to 10 years old when married off to Isaac? Guys, by the way, you know, we're obviously not reading all these, but you can stop and read any. The point is, they're all saying this over and over and over again. And it's all to defend Muhammad.
Where did you get
Isaac was 30.
Hall of the Mountain King?
What's that?
What was that?
Where did you get a royalty-free copy of Hall of the Mountain King?
It's online. You just Google it.
Oh.
Yeah.
7 years old at the period when Rebekah was born, and he waited until she was fit for marriage, 3 years old, and then married her.
Are you sure about that? So as you can see,
all right, guys, that was the intro showing that all these guys, all their favorite Dawa guys on the planet, all say this about Genesis and say it's right there. And then they'll quote some rabbis on top of it. But now we're going to get to...
the only two I couldn't find was Libiano and Dean Responds. They were the only ones I couldn't find a clip of.
Because they're too weak. Just give them time, Chris. Give them time. They'll
the
say
Orthodox Muslim is too good of a friend of Tuvia Singer to get into that.
So as you can see from the intro that a lot of Muslims, especially Muslim da'is, who are the ones who teach dawah, teach the conversion to Islam, they like to claim that Rebekah was 3 in order to excuse Muhammad from being a this doesn't work. Muhammad is still a and they say that Isaac was a because he married Rebekah when she was 3. So Muslims teach this, and is it true?
I just have to say, it's like, it's what little kids do. What, you stole some gum, but he did it too. It's like, your prophet had sex with an but everyone's a pedo. What's the problem if everyone's doing it?
Was Rebekah really 3 years old when Isaac married her? Short answer, no. Long answer, no.
Hey, you stole that from me, even though I stole it from Nabil.
Stole it from Nabil, actually.
What?
Pretty sure I stole it from Nabil.
I stole it from Nabil.
Okay, I stole it from you.
Yeah, so That's receiving stolen goods. That's illegal. Anyway, here we go.
This doesn't make any sense. Now, the source that they're pulling it from is from Rashi, a Jewish rabbi in the around 1000 AD. But he didn't actually teach this. It's actually a misconception of what he taught. Like, there's like 2 or 3 other guys who did teach it based on an interpretation of Rashi. But let's say he did teach this. Does that matter? Because Jews today and Christians today don't believe Rebekah was 3 whatsoever. It's actually extremely easy to prove that Rebekah wasn't 3. And in this video, we're going to go through 5 or 6 different ways to show and prove that Rebekah was not 3, and we can actually deduce a general age of what she actually would have been. But here's why this is important. If Rebekah isn't 3, and all these Muslim da'is like Muhammad Hijab and Ali Dawa and Muslim Lantern and Dean Responds and Sheikh Uthman, all these guys are spouting this lie. They're willing to lie to you. What else are they willing to lie to you about?
That's a very important takeaway, guys. And that's kind of the reason that we need to pick kind of a couple issues. If you try to respond to all their lies, people are just going to forget about it because it's so many. It's like, it's not going to stick in people's mind forever if you just, respond to every lie, as it comes out and stuff. We need to pick like just a few, a handful, maybe 3 or 4, and just relentlessly expose them. Because guess what? Once they're all exposed on this issue, on an issue like this, where they're all lying, they're all telling the lie, then if you really just thoroughly expose them, that's the reasoning that Chris just pointed out there. If they lied about this, if they're lying, because keep in mind, who are they implicating here? It's not just Isaac that they're claiming had sex with a 3-year-old. Abraham sent his servant to go get a girl. And therefore, if you're saying Abraham sent his servant to get a 3-year-old and Abraham is cool with this and brings back a 3-year-old, and Abraham's like, all right, this the wife of my son's dreams here. Then Abraham was cool about that. They claim to respect we respect the prophets more than you. Really? By calling them all pedos? Really? That's how you guys do it? Guys, and the real takeaway here is they don't respect all prophets. They respect one false prophet. And that one false prophet, they're willing to throw everyone else under the bus and lie about anyone else, all to defend the one false prophet. Pretty good sign that he's a false prophet.
Rebekah isn't 3 and all your da'is are affirming that she is 3, are you believing or you're trusting a bad source of information? You as a Muslim, if you believe that Rebekah was 3 because of your da'is and she's not 3, why are you trusting them? Why are you believing them? Maybe you should consider other sources for information, other sources for truth. That's my plea for you for this video. Bible. If you can make it through this video, you can see how obviously Rebekah was not 3. Maybe you should question who you're actually following for your information. So here's the actual source of where this idea comes from. This is from Rashi on Genesis 25. And we have, for when Abraham came from Mount Moriah, he received the news that Rebekah was born. Isaac was then 37 years old because at that time Sarah died. And from the birth of Isaac until the binding of Isaac, when Sarah died, there were 37 years since she was 90 years old when Isaac was born, and 127 when she died, as it is said in 23:1. And the life of Sarah was 127 years. And thus, Isaac was 37 years old at her death, which is true. At that period, Rebekah was born and he waited until she was fit for marriage, 3 years, and then he married her. This doesn't actually say that Rebekah was 3, and we actually see this on other commentaries who talk about Rashi's comment. So this is in around 500 years later in the Talmud. We have one of the other rabbis commenting on Rashi's commentary. Rashi comments on this apparently historically irrelevant detail that the Torah informed us that Isaac, after marrying Rebekah, waited for 3 years until she was old enough to engage in intercourse and become pregnant, 14 years old. So the way later rabbis interpreted this passage was one of 2 ways. One, that she waited 3 years in order for her to be fit for marriage, so for her to be at least 14, or that she was 3 years old. Now there's 2 or 3 rabbis that affirm that she was actually 3 years old. The rest of them affirm that she was 14 or older, depending on your view. But almost
Ash,
I would like to point out that
Ash clearly thinks all this is wrong.
Seder Olam has 14 and 13 as the possible ages. So in the chronology of the ages of events in Judaism,
so if you look at the Rashi though, he's making the claim that he's giving the ages that point out, like the Muslim sources do, what they're using. So it seems like Rashi is saying that she was 3. Like that's what it seems like, which is why people had to come to his defense later on. But he's the only one that says that. Right? Even Seder Olam Rabbah doesn't affirm that explicitly as the only option.
Right.
And later on, you have the
14.
Vilna Gaon doing a timeline. I think he does it reverse from something at the time of Joseph, counting backwards, and arrives at 14. So almost every Jewish source affirms that it's likely that she was 14 years old.
So if I'm understanding this correctly, Chris, are you saying that Rashi said something that was interpreted by some people one way, other people in another way, and some of them wanted to defend what he said, so they rolled with it, and other people said, no, what he's really saying is this, something along those lines?
Right. Yeah, one of the contemporaries to him, Tovia ben Eliezer, he affirms the 3-year-old in the Pesquita. And then you have, I think, one other rabbi a bit later on in history, and then you have various cousin marriage modern rabbis that would probably affirm it. I'm not too deep into the modern rabbinic stuff. Ash would know significantly more about that than I do. But you have the vast majority.
There's a famous clip of a rabbi trying to explain how 3-year-olds back then were like 20-year-olds today, which is just
wild. Yeah. They use the same thing the Muslims use for Aisha.
That's mocked. That saying stuff like that is mocked in the Jewish community. Like nobody takes that seriously.
Yeah. Isn't there one some wacky in, people?
You hear something similar from Muslims. Oh, but a 9-year-old back then was like a 5,000-year-old.
Yeah. I think in one of the midrash it says like a 3-year-old was the equivalent of a 12-year-old or something like that. I don't remember the exact source, but I saw that as well. Yeah. So you have that. Then the things I didn't mention in the video is you also have like Sefer Yahashar, and that gives the age of 10 instead of 3. You have a bunch of people that give 14 because 14 is just the common source. And that gets into the usage of Nurah, which I talk about a little bit later on. And the Book of Jubilees, which I didn't mention, gives the age of 20. And that is the oldest source on it. And it's a non-rabbinic source. So the oldest source we have for age of Rebekah gives 20 as it.
Well, that's clearly wrong because Daniel says she's 3. And that's Daniel Hakikachu. He's the expert on child marriage, so he would know. All right, here we go.
The rabbis, this is the majority position, is that she was at least 14, not 3. And if we continue going, we also see that another rabbi on Deuteronomy 37 claims that Rebekah lived to the age of 133 years, same as that of Kedat, son of Levi. Our author calculates that if Rebekah had been only 3 years old at the time when she was married, that calculation would be wrong by 11 years. So again, we have multiple ways to prove and show that later rabbis didn't actually think Rebekah was 3. We also have, towards the end of this, that as proof that Rebekah could not have been only 3 years old when Eliezer met her, he cites the fact that her brother and mother referred to her as a Nara, a term never applied to someone younger than 12 and a half years of age. The well-known traditional historic text known as Seder Olam, which is what Rashi is quoting from, in its first chapter also writes that when Abraham returned from the binding of Isaac, he was told that Rebekah had been born. The meaning of that midrash was that she had been born some time ago. Another proof that she was of age is that we have an ironclad rule that parents must not marry off a girl who has already reached puberty unless she has been asked and given her consent. The fact that in our chapter Rebekah's family proceeds to ask for her consent proves that without it the parents could not have married her off. We have in later rabbinic sources, because I've brought this up with Muslims before and they're like, oh, I'm going to trust the Jews on this. Well, here's the Jewish commentary that explains what Rashi's interpretation should have been, because it's obvious that she couldn't have been 3 because she's called words that a 3-year-old can't fit. Also, if a woman is pubescent, she has to be asked and given consent to marriage in Jewish practice. So we have, from the Jewish sources, good reason to believe that rabbis didn't actually teach that she was 3, other than a misinterpretation of one rabbi's, now Rashi is an influential rabbi, but only one rabbi's quote. But this quote is being misused. So if we actually go to the text itself, it becomes immediately obvious that this idea that she was only 3 years old fails in so many spectacular ways. Let's break this down one by one. One, Sarah was 90 years old whenever she gave birth to Isaac. That's pretty obvious. That's the end of my Talmud or midrash section. If you want to expand on that at all, Ash.
Yeah, so what's really interesting here, though, is that Rashi is like 11th century, right?
Right.
The medieval commentators who analyze Rashi's work and comment further on it, the Tosfot or the Tosafists as they're called, They go back to the Talmud, which is earlier than Rashi, and they don't agree with the 3-year-old opinion, and they're like critical scholars of Rashi's work, basically, as well as other medieval scholars. So there's literally nothing to suggest that Rashi's like personal opinion on the matter is held by anyone else in the Jewish world, and it itself does not give valid reason to make that claim. So to say that the Jewish world believes
Tosafot gives 14.
Right.
As the
right, disagreeing with Rashi completely, even though they do often agree with Rashi's rulings and Rashi's commentary.
To 23 and she did die at 127 years old. So for sure, Isaac was 37 when Sarah died. And Sarah died at the beginning of 23. The statement in which Rebekah was born is at the end of 22. So if we read this, we see this is after the binding of Isaac. After the binding of Isaac, he goes home, and sometime later, Abraham was told, Milcah is also a mother. She has borne sons to your brother Nahor, Uz, the firstborn, Buz, his brother, Kimil, the father of Abraham, Kesed, Hazo, Pildesh, Jidlapah, that was bad pronunciation, and Bethuel. Bethuel became the father of Rebekah. Milcah bore these 8 sons to Abraham's brother Nahor, and his concubine, whose name was Reumah, also had sons Teba, Garama, Tahash, and Maacah.
Guys, check that passage out. I said that's the most important passage you need to become familiar with. So this is after. Yeah. This is the story of Abraham and Isaac taking him, to bind him and so on. And then at the very end, you have this. And so what they do is they say, it mentions the girl being born right here at the end. Therefore, this happened at the same time. And I mean, think about it. One, it says sometime later. But then it gives all these names of all these people, including Rebekah's father. So if you're going to say...
He's now come to knowledge of all these people that exist already and have been born.
Yeah, so he hears news from way back. There's no emails back then, guys. There's no emails. There's no phone. There's not even like Pony Express, Telegraph. There's none of that stuff. You eventually have to have someone who's coming to town to trade something or something like that. And they're like, oh, we were back home. And yeah, we talked to them. We can give you updates on everything back there. That's what you're waiting on. And so if you haven't been home in a long, 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 long time, they're going to update you on a ton of stuff that happened since you've been gone. That's what Abraham hears right now. He hears about all his family members that he didn't know about. Muslims look at that and they say, oh, it mentions her there. Therefore, it's the same time. Therefore, we can do our calculations. And they all do this. Sheikh Uthman does this. Muhammad Hijab does this. Daniel Haqiq, they all do the exact same thing. They all say, this is when she was born, right here. And now we can do the math. Does this say anything like that?
This is like 2000 BC. And Abraham is in Canaan. And this family that we're speaking of is in like Iraq.
Mm-hmm.
That's why he doesn't know anything until like 3 generations later.
Yeah, guys.
It's a 500-mile journey.
And they're all shepherds. They're not in the same place when you go back to look for them.
Yeah, and it's, I mean, guys, just imagine, because, let me put it this way. So, like, I grew up in West Virginia, and I had family in Preston County. That's kind of like Rednecksville, some of those parts of that and so on. So I had cousins back there. I don't know what's happened with my cousins and stuff since then. I don't know who's had kids and so on. I don't know. Even though I grew up with some of these guys and we knew each other when we were young, and we'd all go hang out and go fish and all this stuff when we were young. I don't know what's happened since then. Imagine someone coming along and saying, "Hey, did you know your cousin Tony? He had 3 kids, and matter of fact, he's a grandfather now because one of his kids had kids and stuff." It's going down the list, and then imagine me thinking, "Wow, all this happened right now." Today, this all happened today, right when I'm hearing about that. That would be idiotic and insane, and it's what every single Dawah guy does. Why? All to defend Muhammad by saying everyone is a pedo back then. So how dare you criticize Muhammad? So guys, anyway, the point is, everyone read that over and over again. Become familiar with that, because when you see it, you have to be able to go to Bible Gateway, screenshot it, and say, where does it say she was born right now? You guys just said this says this is when she was born. She's born right here during the story of Abraham and Isaac. That's when she's born. Show us where it says that. You just have to be ready for it, and we all have to be ready for it. And it can't just be Chris explaining it or Ash explaining it, someone explaining it in a video. Everyone has to call it out every time. And you should go hunting for it. You should go Dawah hunting. You should go dawa hunting. You should hunt around. He just showed you a bunch of references. Why? You can search for him. You can search for him. You can find it. Respond to every last one of them. Also, good idea. Just share Chris's video. Share Chris's video. Good thing. Matter of fact, while we're watching this, I'll go ahead and add it to the description box so everyone has it handy.
Yeah, my video also has my notes for the whole video. So all of my notes for all of the arguments in the video are in the description of that video. So if you want to just copy paste things or have this like references available, it's all there. It's all laid out pretty nicely in bullet points.
Did y'all catch that? He's got all the stuff, all his notes for this whole thing. It's in the description box of his video. I'm going to link to his video, but you will have the notes there. You'll have it all. It's everything you need. It's everything you need. Everyone needs to take it and go dawa hunting. Sorry about that. What were you saying?
You have similar lineages given in similar context. So there's the big event happening. Like in this case, it's Akedat Yitzchak. It's like the binding of Isaac. And then all this lineage stuff given because there's been like an update basically of what's going on. You have a similar thing. I don't remember if it's during the like conflict between Jacob and Esau, or if it's at the death of Ishmael. There's something in Genesis where there's a big event happens, and then there's the lineage given of like Esau with like Edom, like the Edomites and all the Edomite kings and stuff like that. It's a very similar structure. Big event happens, then here's an update on this person's lineage, and it has like future kings listed. So you'd have to assume that this is like a lineage update to foreshadow or tell you about all the stuff that's coming with this person. It's not literally when the people were born, because you can't be talking about future people that haven't been born yet. And it's in the same kind of context. And it happens
the same
regularly.
thing happens with Ishmael. Ishmael also does it whenever they bury Abraham. That gives the lineage of Ishmael and the line that comes from him. Yeah, in the exact same format. So Bethuel is the father of Rebekah outright. This is actually an aside. Inside of the Hebrew, we have this disjunction that happens. Actually shows because it is a wa clause, which we have here. So this vav, this wa, is a consecutive disjunction with a perfect verb afterward with became. So this grammatical structure suggests that the author is throwing in this detail. It's not actually part of this list. So what's happening here is Abraham is getting a report. He was given a message from a messenger where Milcah had all of these kids. You can see the quotation marks from this translator has just this bit be the message. Bethuel became the father of Rebekah is an aside from the author where he's projecting in future knowledge about the events into the text. But this is not what Abraham was told. He was not told that Rebekah was also born at this moment in time. The text actually doesn't say that he's told about Rebekah's birth at all. We don't even know if he actually knew that he had the daughter Rebekah. That's not in the text. So in the text itself, you can't actually show that Abraham received the news of Rebekah's birth here.
Oh, interesting. I never even paid much attention to that. So you're saying sometimes later, Abraham was told Milcah's also a mother, and he gets all this news, and then it's the narrator who says, oh, and by the way, I'm going to introduce this character of Rebekah.
It's Moses, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was Ezra.
Ash can correct me if I'm wrong. It's Ezra.
It's telling us something about Ezra.
Interesting.
There is no textual evidence of Rebekah's birth in the text, like whatsoever. Nowhere in the text does it say when she was actually born, so we can't actually establish a timeline anywhere based on this because it doesn't actually say she was born here. If you say that she is born here and that all of these other guys are born here at the same time, well, Bethuel and Rebekah are father and daughter. In order to say that this whole passage is one birth, like, hey, all these people are born at the same time, in order to take that view, you have to say that the father and the daughter are the same age. Now, I hope you have enough critical thinking skills to know that a dad and the daughter cannot be born at the same time. So
you're ruling out the Russian nesting doll thing, man. Like, dude, if you get a Russian nesting doll, you're getting all of them at the same time, right? They're different sizes, but you get them all at the same time. So come on.
Well, that
technically a girl has all the eggs.
Technically, that means the father's also 3.
Yes.
Yeah.
And guess what? Guess what?
Rebekah
Muslims would be willing to bite the bullet on that. Yes, he was 3 too. They were all these were born. If that's what it takes to defend Muhammad having sex with a 9-year-old, now we'll say that all these guys were born right there. What are you saying, Chris?
I was just saying, it's a weird thing where the eggs of a fetus is fully like developed by like 7 months. So the whatever kids she has are already, the material for them already exists.
See?
So technically, her daughter could be inside of her before she's born.
In your face.
So you can have the granddaughter be inside of the mom in a way. It's not fertilized.
There goes your whole
You have like the eggs. So all the women technically are like Russian nesting dolls because of the weird way their body works.
You just proved their point. You just proved the double point.
It's true. Yeah.
This time frame, these 8 brothers and the daughter, that is, at least a couple decades, 10 to 20 years. And the father also has to be able to give birth, and that's going to be another 20 years. So this might be like a 30 to 40 year time span between when Uz and Rebekah was born. We have no idea. Might even be later than that. It might be 50, 60 years. Because we don't know how old Bethuel was whenever he gave birth to Rebekah, especially because Rebekah, Bethuel isn't in the story whenever Rebekah is given in marriage. It's just Laban and their mother. So there is no mention of when Bethuel dies. He's not alive whenever Rebekah is old enough to get married and whenever Isaac marries her. We have no idea what the time scale is here, what the time span is. We have absolutely no idea. One thing to know, from 21, so the birth of Isaac, to 25 is 40 years of time because Isaac buries him and then he is 40 here. 40 years pass in 3 chapters. Even if like Rebekah might be older than Isaac, we don't know. The words used for her could be any time scale, and she's just an unmarried woman. Now it indicates a younger woman, so she's probably under 30, but we don't know. That's the whole point. You do not actually have a case that she is 3 based on the text, based on any math, based on any calculation. It doesn't work because her date of birth is not given, period. It's not given as part of the report. It's not in the text, not in the grammar. It doesn't make sense to conclude it here. So there's absolutely no textual support whatsoever for when she was born, but can we actually look at the linguistic evidence of how she's described to know what age is she?
What's that?
So that phrase sometime later or after these things, that also comes up in Genesis 15:1 and 41. So the exact phrase is used in other places within Genesis that indicate a year gaps, like years of time gap. So we have Abraham's gap between 14 and 15, and we have Joseph's gap in prison. Like he gets put in prison. It says sometime later the chief cupbearer and baker get put in prison with him. And he was in prison for multiple years. So we have 2 other instances in Genesis where that exact phrase in the Hebrew is used to indicate multiple years passing. So from the binding of Isaac to the report that he gets, we have no idea how long that was. That could be multiple years from the Hebrew.
So I can't remember where I saw it, but there's some timeline thing that puts it at if she was 14 by the same renderings of time that puts her at 14, it would put Isaac at like 26 or something like that. But we know that he was 40, so she may have been. My math is failing me again.
Yeah,
it's 14 years, so she might have been 28 from that timeline. Yeah. I just can't remember where I found it. So
Ben Ezra is the one that he dates. He dates Isaac younger. So he doesn't. He says that Rashi is kind of dumb for having that because Rebekah had a nurse and it wasn't an infancy nurse. She wasn't still nursing. And he says that Isaac was actually younger, so they were closer in age than 37 and 14. He aged Isaac down and he aged Rebekah up so that whenever they're actually married.
If Isaac is 40 based on that rendering, she would have had to have been like 28 or something like that. And they're saying, no, that's too old. So it doesn't make sense.
Yeah. And he also uses the 20 years of barrenness to indicate that she was developed and they would have expected a child throughout that whole period. So she obviously had to be older than 14. So I think his math was actually 50 and 30. That she was 30 when they got married and 50 whenever she finally conceived with the twins.
Hebrew has words for different ages. of women, and we're gonna look at that. So we have Eliezer, who is Abraham's servant. He's being loaded up with 10 camels, and then he makes his way out to Rebekah, specifically to find Bethuel and his children. Eliezer was sent to Abraham's relatives, and in this he was going to go find a woman, an Aisha. So specifically he was told, go find a wife. Well, in Hebrew, this word wife is Isha. Isha means woman, it means wife, it means a grown adult. You would never use this of a child. Period. Outright. Couldn't work. So he's told, hey, go find a grown woman for my son to marry. Okay. Rebekah comes out with her jar on her shoulder. She had a jar on her shoulder. This type of jar is a clay jar. They're fairly heavy. If you ever try to pick one up, they're pretty big and round. You put them on your shoulder or your head. That's how people carry them in the Middle East. These things get fairly heavy. They get especially heavy whenever you have water in them, because water is fairly heavy. If you've ever picked up a bucket full of water, you'll know that that's a feat in and of itself. For her to be a 3-year-old, to have the jar on her shoulder in general would have been kind of miraculous. She would have been roided out. Well, the problem is...
Hold up. If you're just going to rule out miraculous strength, how are you going to rule out miraculous strength when we already agreed that she was the exact same age as her father, 3?
It's true. Actually, Bereshit Rabbah adds in a miracle that says that the water lifted up out of the well to be poured into her jar to make it easier for her, which is pretty interesting. That's how Eliezer knew that she was the one, because he saw this miracle, and all the other women that were tending the flocks didn't have that miracle. So he was like, oh, she's obviously the one. Little baby Rebekah with the water going, but she still has to carry the jar. So even if she's not like bending down to pick it up, a 3-year-old can't hold that.
Okay, so we got 3. We got 3 miracles.
She had the strength of her father because they were born at the same time.
Yeah,
it's true. Yeah.
So we got 3 miracles. She's born at the exact same time as her father. They're both 3 years old. The water comes out of the well, so she doesn't have to lift it. But then she still needs supernatural 3-year-old strength to carry the water jar. So okay, just 3 miracles for the Islamic theory to work. No problem. No problem. Let's keep going.
A 3-year-old only weighs around 30 pounds, and my son is like 26 pounds or something like that right now. He's on the smaller side. He's 3. So I have a 3-year-old. I am deeply familiar with what a 3-year-old can actually pick up and what they can't pick up. This jar by itself would have been on the edge of what a 3-year-old could pick up in general. Once you fill it with water, it's not possible. They biologically cannot lift that much. It doesn't matter. Like, you give them steroids, they're not going to be lifting that much weight. It's heavier.
What if I saw people commenting that the water had steroids in it? Prove that the water did not contain steroids.
It's double their weight. You're not going to be doing it. And not only did she do this, she lowered it and gave him a drink, and also gave enough for all the camels. To go from here to here with that jar, that's not a feat that the biceps of a 3-year-old could do, let alone tip it just enough to get water out for him and then untip it. This is not a feat that a 3-year-old can do biologically. It just doesn't work. It's too heavy. But also, they don't have enough endurance. This is 10 camels. A camel can drink around 200 liters or 53 gallons of water. So this is around 2,000 liters of water that she is pouring out of a well. I don't know if you ever tried to draw water out of a well. It's incredibly difficult. Their wells, you had to go down staircases into it and then suck the water, and it was like a spring that fed into the well, and you had to get it up out of it, and then you had to go back. That whole process, doing that once, would exhaust an average American now, because we are not in shape. But even, let's say you're in shape, that takes an incredible amount of endurance. You have to be doing physical labor every day in order to be able to do this type of labor, but you have to be able to do that as an adult. Children cannot do that. They don't have the stamina, they don't have the endurance, basically the same thing, and they don't have the strength. Their muscles would snap. They would become a pool of Jetto by the time all 10 camels would drink 2,000 liters. A baby can't do that. They just can't. And most adults can't even do that nowadays. You're telling me that a little 3-year-old could draw enough water for 10 camels from a heavy jar in a well that you have to go into and come out of with stairs in order to do it and like pour it into the trough so the camels drink. It's not going to happen. Grammatically, we know that she was not actually included then, so she's not 3. Biologically, she couldn't be 3 because of this feat. Now, linguistically, we can actually know that she wasn't 3 based on the words attributed to her. So this word here, woman, is nara. So if I pull up the Hebrew here, we have nara. This word was only used from 12 and a half to 25. So it would be a pubescent woman up until mid to late 20s. That would be who was called nara. So automatically, she couldn't be 3. And if we look at this, she's also called a betula. Betula is a virgin. This word would not be used of a 3-year-old because also there is a commentary, which is kind of gross. There's a commentary in the Hebrew sources where the fact that she's called a betula here, a virgin, according to the view that Rebekah was only 3 years old, why the Torah needed to add that she was a virgin? Since the Talmud says that any 3-year-old girls that had been violated by someone, her hymen will grow again, something that was known to the people in those days. If the text specified that she was a betula, that she was a virgin, that she had her hymen, she couldn't have been 3. It would not have used it if she was a 3-year-old because the hymen would regrow. Kind of gross. She had an increased number of stem cells and things can grow back way easier when you're a kid than when you're an adult. Either way, from the Jewish sources, from the Jewish understanding and the culture surrounding it, this word wouldn't be used, both because the hymen would regenerate, according to their view, and it was not appropriate to be used in that context, is that the word betula indicates like sexual activity. So you wouldn't be talking about a child with that word. That's kind of gross. I wouldn't say a virgin toddler. That's kind of gross. If you have to specify virgin toddler for anyone, you're kind of a creepy dude. Don't.
You put Muhammad up there, but that should have been Daniel Hakikachu. Because Daniel's the one who's okay with 3-year-olds.
Yeah. Did you see Christian Gadfly's comment?
What? What'd he say?
You guys act like this is so impossible. Do you see that?
No. Hang on. Where is it? Was it recent? Here we go.
No.
Let's see. Here's his most recent one. They had to say she was a virgin because you can get married at 3 months via Hakikachu. No, 11 months.
It was before that.
11 months, Christian Gadfly. Hang on. Let's see.
It was before.
Yeah,
Christian Gadfly always causing. Yeah, for everyone who didn't see the debate between Inspiring Philosophy and Daniel Hakikachu, Daniel said that as long as a girl reaches precocious puberty, that's where you have an issue and you get puberty significantly earlier than normal. This reminds me of when my kids were they went to an actual like MMA gym, had real MMA fighters in there and stuff like that, but they were young. But there was an 8-year-old who was just like destroying people at tournaments. I mean, destroying people. He was destroying like 12 and 13-year-olds and stuff. But his dad came up to me one day and he goes, "Hey, you're a smart guy. I'm a little concerned. My kid, he's 8, but man, he's got all the pubic hair. He's got everything. He's got hair under his armpits." And I'm like, "Oh, okay, yeah, that's actually a thing." But yeah, Daniel said, "Hey, you see, he should be married." But yeah, so Daniel was saying that as long as a girl has some sort of sign that she doesn't matter if it's precocious. He said 5-year-old fine, 4-year-old fine, and then IP pointed out that we have studies showing that girls can go through precocious puberty as early as 11 months. And then Daniel had to just say, well, but her parents probably aren't going to grant that, right? Parents are probably not going to give their 11-month-old baby to some dude to start having sex with and so on. So as long as you get parental consent, but you're probably not going to get parental consent unless a Dawa guy convinces you that it's a really good idea. Here's Christian Gadfly. You guys act like this is just so impossible. If a man can put a toothbrush up his butt and birth a ratfish, a 3-year-old can carry a water jar, no problem. Fair point. And that's why this makes sense to Muslims, right? We're sitting here going, hey, how can a girl be born at the same time as her dad and both be 3 years old and, and then all this other stuff. And they're like, what are you talking about? You get a rabbit baby coming out of a dude's butt. This isn't so unbelievable.
It's tame, yeah.
Welcome to Islam, guys.
Creepy.
Anyway, so she's called a Nara, which doesn't make sense for a 3-year-old. She's called a Batula, which doesn't make sense for a 3-year-old. She's also called very beautiful. And this phrase, because Logos puts it in right to left, she's called a Nara, she's called a Batula, and this phrase here, she was very beautiful. This phrase here means exceptionally beautiful in appearance. So she was exceedingly pleasant to look at. Well, this doesn't really make sense with a 3-year-old because this phrase is used to describe an exceedingly beautiful person to behold, to take in. You know, like your supermodel, but it doesn't have to necessarily be sexual in context. It's more so you're just like in awe of their physical appearance, like, wow, that person is stunning to look at. That's the way that she's being described. Well, even though this doesn't carry the, sensual overtones like desire or covet or any word used in Song of Solomon, it still has that sense where if a man was to gaze at this type of woman, this woman with this type of appearance, he could desire her. It could cause lust. So the type of beauty that she has could entice lust in a man. Now,
I have to point out that entire point is not going to be convincing to Muslims.
Yeah.
At all.
It's not relevant.
Like, what's the problem? Like,
this is totally fine.
I see smoking hot 3-year-olds all the time. I can't take my eyes off of them.
Well, so for comparison, Sarah and Rachel are also called this, and both of those are not children, obviously, by the text. So other adults are also called this. All the matriarchs are called this exact phrase, other than Leah. So
she had weak eyes.
She did have weak eyes.
In order to say that this is for a 3-year-old, again, it's really creepy. And this is the author of it talking. And this would be Moses or God, which is what we believe is, it's inspired word of God. So you have to basically say that God is like doing some real creepy.
Oh, interesting there. Interesting. Yeah. So, I pointed out that they would be associating Abraham with this. You're pointing out that, well, it's the narrator who's calling her so attractive. And therefore, if it's a 3-year-old, this would be Moses saying that a 3-year-old was smoking hot.
And since it's divine dictation, it has to be Allah.
Well, they wouldn't have a problem with that. Anyway. Have you read Surah 65, verse 4, buddy? Anyway.
Yes.
Clown stuff. Some Skittles. It doesn't, no. Anyway, so this phrase would not be used of a child. This word wouldn't be used of a child. This word would be used of a child. We have other words as well. So again, she's called an Nara. She's called an Isha. Again, so Isha. And then again, this is an Alma, which we'll get to. So this word here, Isha, this word is always used of a grown woman. Specifically, it's interchangeable with wife. She is called this directly. This is not something you would call a baby, a toddler. It just doesn't work. So for her to be called an Isha, here, let her become the Isha of your master's son. So this, in this context, is wife, but you still wouldn't call her that. It just doesn't make any sense whatsoever. I can't think of a good comparison to English or even Arabic. I'm sure there is one, but anyway, this gets into Isaiah 7:14 for is the Messiah to be born of a virgin or not? Well, she's called an Alma here, a young woman. And a young woman typically would be a woman of pubescent or post-pubescent, so from like 13, 14 to 30, who wasn't married. So an unmarried young woman. So she's called an Alma. She's also called a virgin, a Batula. So she's both. So, for the whole, Matthew didn't actually quote, the Bible correctly because it was Alma in 7:14 for Isaiah. This actually kind of shows that Alma and Batula can be interchangeable. That'll get into the next Isaiah video. So she's called an Alma, she's called an Nara, she's called a Isha, she's called Batula. She's called all these things. She's never once called a Yalda. There's a word in Hebrew that you can actually use to describe a female child. One that was used perfectly for a 3-year-old, and it's Yalda. It's Yald, Lemed, Dalet, He. This word means little girl. It means toddler. It means child. It means female child. It means young girl. Not woman, not young woman, young girl. If a 3-year-old was to be described, it would be Yalda. She is called 4 different words for woman in the text. Never once is she's called a Yalda. She is not a 3-year-old. It doesn't work whatsoever. So, Next piece of evidence.
They wanna bring up
Rebekah was
something else, man.
asked, will you go with...
What's that?
So I'm not using the same terms that the Talmud uses because they have like halakha categories for a lot of these words, and they change the meaning of nara to be specifically from like the onset of the second pubic hair unto 6 months after puberty. So it's like a very short window of time is a nara. So it's like 12 to 12 and a half or 13, which is why they give such young ages later on in time, is because they're using the Talmud's definition of nara and not a biblical exposition of what that term can mean based on the available stories. At least that's my opinion of it. So they have Ketzana nara and a bogretz, if I butchered those. But it's like a child, a pubescent, and then a post-pubescent are the legal categories for like marriageable age, property rights, all that stuff. And then you have non-Talmud words in Hebrew that describe all these things. Most of them are the ones that are actually used. But nara, I point out nara here because we do have a girl called a yalda who does engage in intercourse in the Bible, and that's Dinah. Granted, it was grape, it was not consensual, but Dinah is called a yalda specifically by the guy who was the father of the one who attacked her. And he's like, why did you bring this little girl to me? And in that, we see that there is a yalda. So she's anywhere from like 2 to 13, 14, 15 in that age range. Most historians put her between like 7 and 14, if I remember correctly. The yalda there would be a girl who is mature enough to walk around by herself, to do chores by herself, and to have some level of autonomy, like she doesn't need parental supervision anymore. Yet she's still called a little girl. So if she's called a little girl, but Rebekah's not called a little girl, that would indicate that Rebekah's older than puberty. Should be post-pubescent, based on the usage of the Hebrew words in the Bible itself, not based on later Talmud or Midrash usage.
For Yeled and Yelda could theoretically go back as far as like an infant, like a newborn infant, even in some cases.
Right. Yeah.
But it's definitely not the same as Nara. It's not an older child or a teenager or a woman.
Right.
Quick question, Chris. Do you expect any Dawa fan to understand anything you just said in that last part? Keep in mind, your average Dawa fan is the product of 40 generations of first cousin marriage.
It's true.
This man, I will go, she said. So she's able to assent to marriage. Now this demonstrates a cognitive feat that 3-year-olds can't really comprehend. Yesterday, my son wanted me to cut the tag off of his teddy bear. He's 3 and a half. I told him, sure, I can do that, but I want to make sure that you know that once this thing is gone, it's gone for good. I cut it off, and then he started crying because I threw it away. Even though he assented to it, he didn't understand what it meant. Rebekah here is assenting to marriage, the most important thing you can do in this life other than giving your life to God. In the Jewish context, in the Jewish history, and the Jewish understanding, she would not have been able to give consent to marriage if she was a child. And once you're pubescent, then you actually are asked whether or not you consent. So a child could be given in marriage, but it would be up to the father, or the man in charge if it was the brother, so Laban in this instance. It would be up to her dad, Bethuel, or Laban, since Bethuel seems to be dead here. It would not be up to Rebekah. So for Rebekah to be asked, will you go, it indicates that she's cognitively able to consent, and that she's post-pubescent, because you would only ask this of a woman if she was already pubescent. So from the Jewish context, her being asked is proof that she was not a 3-year-old. She also had the emotional ability to assent, which is not something a 3-year-old has, which I brought up in the Jewish rabbinical.
Mm-hmm. Not only that, according to Jewish orthodoxy and tradition, the forefathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, kept Jewish law as we know it today back then, which means anything that is a halachic ruling today about laws of marriage or laws of purity or kosher laws, anything like that, the Jewish belief of the same rabbis commenting on this would be that those forefathers kept those rules even before the covenant at Sinai was given, which means they could not have endorsed violating this rule, even if the father, Lavan, did in fact allow for it, which would completely debunk that position anyways.
source earlier. We also have veiling. Whenever Isaac came to her, she saw him and said, "Who is the man in the field coming to meet us?" The servant Eliezer said, "He is my master." She took her veil and covered herself. And the servant told Isaac all he had done. Isaac brought her into the tent of his mother Sarah, and he married Rebekah. So she became his wife, and he loved her, and Isaac was comforted after his mother's death. She had a veil. Veiling is not something that children would do. The whole purpose of the veil is for modesty whenever a young woman of marriageable age is around either her suitor or potential suitors. So for her to be veiling at all means that she would be an adult woman, or at least a woman of marriageable age, not a toddler. A 3-year-old doesn't have a veil whatsoever. You would get your veil at like 13 and then you would use it, but before puberty you wouldn't have a veil. You just wouldn't have. So for her to have her veil and for her to choose to cover herself, she is practicing Jewish practices that you'd only do as a teenager, period. This is still a thing that they do today. It's in Near Eastern cultures, they veil. It's a sign of modesty. It's a sign of respect. It's a sign of showing that you're of marriageable age, that you're able to be married. So, yeah. We have in the Anchor Yale Bible Dictionary that in their entry on marriage, that the veil was given to teenagers in order to kind of bridge the gap between childhood and adulthood whenever they're now ready for marriage. So the veil is symbolizing that they are marriageable. You know, you have the veil in the marriage ceremony. You also have the veil to show your status as a potential bride or your status as a bride. Once you're married, the veil comes off. So only for a little bit of time where veiling for betrothed and married women were actually a thing. You wouldn't do it as a child and you wouldn't do it as an older woman. It would just be post-pubescent girls, not 3-year-olds. To some other context, Sumerian and Akkadian societies, veiling was actually really normal for those age-ranges, not for children. So not only do we have Jewish culture, we also have other cultures within the Middle East who practiced veiling at this age. That shows that Rebekah was at that age. Every context we have of this passage shows that she was at least 14 onward. So somewhere between 14 and 30 was Rebekah's age. Now, one bit of thing to know. She's said that she has a nurse that came with her after Rebekah got married. So her nurse, Deborah, comes with her. Well, Deborah dies right around the same age as Isaac. She dies in 35. And then Isaac dies immediately after. So Deborah, Rebekah's nurse, dies, but she comes along on the journey with her. Muslims like to say that because she had a nurse, she was still nursing. She was still an infant who required milk. No.
I've heard that repeatedly.
An interesting thing. So in the Jewish context, in the Jewish culture, specifically ancient Jewish culture, nurses would actually be accompanying young women as they got married if they were of higher status. But because they had some affluence, she had a nurse, not to help with her, but to help with her children. So Deborah actually traveled with Jacob, one of Rebekah's children, his entire life. She died on the trail with him. So as he was wandering, Deborah was with him. So she was a maternal figure for Jacob. But she was probably in similar ages as Rebekah. She was not much older than her, because she died at the same time as Isaac. So unless she lived an extraordinarily long life, she was at similar ages, so she would have been between 30 and 40. It doesn't make sense to apply her as the nurse, like the wet nurse of Rebekah. Instead, nurses in that culture would just take care of the children that the woman would be producing. So she would be aiding in the marriage of Rebekah going forward, not in Rebekah's upbringing. She was not a mother to Rebekah. That doesn't make any sense. So the evidence that Muslims use against this is very weak, it just doesn't make any sense. As I mentioned before, Genesis 22, these events is not actually timed because this is an aside. It's not actually a part of the narrative. So the events of the binding of Isaac and Sarah's death are actually kind of unrelated. We don't know how old Isaac was during this. It just says sometime later God tested Abraham. Isaac was likely in his teenage years whenever he was placed on the offer. He was not 37 whenever this happened, more than likely. So sometime later, and then sometime later, these occurred. So we don't know what the time. This might be 10 years after the binding of Isaac. This might be 15 years after the binding of Isaac. It might be 20 years after the binding of Isaac that he's told about this. It might be 20 years after the binding of Isaac that Sarah died. We don't actually know how long passages happened. We don't know how long time spans were between each word of Genesis. We just don't. Specifically, the chapters with Isaac in it. Not only that, Abraham was told this news news from his brother. His brother still lived in Hebron. He lived in Haran, or vice versa. The distance from Hebron to Haran is around 800 miles. So 800 miles was the travel distance. And, that would take weeks to months to travel from one place to the other. So this is not that important of news for him to send out a messenger to hey, go tell my brother or my cousin. Go tell all my relatives, oh, I had all these kids. This is a very, very long distance that you had to travel back then by camel or by foot. This is not a distance that you would just travel casually. So this news was likely not instantaneous. This was likely decades in the making. Hey, we have all this news to bring him now. It would be months between communications. That's if they chose to do it at all, because the journey itself would be perilous. So we have no idea. The news of Rebekah's birth here, if it was even included at all, which grammatically it isn't from...
What's that?
It's 800 kilometers, not miles, so it's 500 miles. I mixed those up whenever I said it in the video.
Well, if you're wrong about that...
I know.
This is Dawa level, guys. This is Dawa level stuff. He's just making stuff up now.
I think from the rest of the timeline, it would make sense that it did happen just after, sometime just afterwards, meaning could be a year or whatever it is, but that Rebekah was born much earlier as opposed to just then when it was discussed. Because she's given in a list of people who are already born. Everyone knows about them. These are the members of the family. She has a personality and everyone knows who she is. She's part of the family, and that's being reported to Abraham. If she was an infant at the time, she's not, a notable member of the family to be discussed in this way. I find it hard to believe that it was too long afterwards, but it's more likely that she was born much earlier.
Right. Also, let's say you have the report, and then you also have Sarah's death. So both of those are both that same clause of sometime later. So we don't know when in the timeline each of those things happened.
Exactly.
Even if it was, news traveled so slowly back then, especially because they were in a desert and in deserted mountains, because they were in this rough terrain that took a long time to travel, and they had such a great distance between them. It could be decades, years between events happening and them being told about it. So even if nothing else, the amount of time it would have taken for Rebekah to be born and then the news to reach Abraham would be longer than 3 years in and of itself. Now, there's also nothing within the text that suggests a quick succession from one moment to the next. From the jump between 21 to 23 is 37 years. We have no idea how the sequence of events between his birth and Sarah's death, we have no idea what the time span is between each of those events. There's nothing in the text that suggests that it was a quick fire succession of events. It just
You're ruling out
reports
flying
events
donkeys and jinn teleportation.
Oh, he's ruling out all kinds of things.
Although there are Jewish sources that talk about Kfitzat HaDerech, which is the way being shortened teleportation-wise for various biblical figures. So there is that, but you'd have to take the midrash seriously that people were teleporting all over the place.
Yep, sounds like Chris here is actually a closet atheist, just assuming that nothing miraculous is taking place in all this.
Don't they have Moses teleport to Rabbi Akiva's class, and then he take the class?
Well, that's not just teleportation; that's time travel as well.
Well, I mean, it's both. Yeah. So you have Moses time traveling to Rabbi Akiva, who's explaining the Torah, and then Moses feels out of his depth while listening to Rabbi Akiva explain the Torah. And then he goes back and he's like, "Well, I'm not nearly as good as a teacher as Rabbi Akiva. Why didn't you have him reveal the Torah?" And then God is like, "Shut up, you don't know."
About my great rabbi that's coming, who's, by the way, a Gentile convert.
Right.
I want to get shirts made. Off topic, but I want to get shirts made that have two category headings. One that says Jew, one that says Goy. And under Jew, it just says St. Peter, St. Paul, Mark, James. And then on the Goy side, it says Rabbi Akiva, Shemaiah, Avtalion, Rabbi Meir, Onkelos, all the converts to Judaism who founded rabbinic Judaism. I think that'd be a pretty good
that would be Yeah.
That reminds me, I saw a skit that had goyim, and they're like, oh, we don't like that term. We prefer Semitically challenged.
Nice.
That's funny.
Happened with no timeline whatsoever. To establish a timeline on this is an incredibly hyper-literalist view of scripture that the scripture itself doesn't support, and that later commentators who took that view didn't actually take that. They took that she was 14 because of the use of nara, because of the use of Bethula, because of these words, virgin and young woman. They did not believe that the text actually believed that it was that way. Not only that, we have...
One second. Where did that go? Oh, here we go. Which text was Uthman using? They kept saying from the Bible. Yeah, that's because Sheikh Uthman is a liar. He did what everyone else does, right? He's very carefully, and this is the verse, and he gives the reference, and this is the verse, and he gives the reference, and this is the verse, and he gives the reference, and then he says, and Rebekah was born at the same time that Abraham took Isaac and bound him and stuff. He just says it. He just says it. Doesn't give the source.
They were probably using like a more modern translation, like the NISB.
I think he was quoting Rashi, if I remember correctly.
No, he did. I'm saying
he had the same wording of and he waited for her later 3 years.
Yeah, we didn't get your joke, man.
NISB. The New Islamic Standard Bible.
Oh yeah, NISB. Oh. Yeah, you gotta say it, and you gotta say it in full. No, Sheikh Uthman. I don't remember if it's that same video you're talking about, but yeah, he broke it down from the Bible, and then he did that, and he said, "Oh yeah, and she was born at the same time this thing happened with Abraham and Isaac." And then he goes on, but he doesn't give the source for that. But then he goes into the rabbis, and this is all. This is the proof.
That live stream he did where he was like on the floor in a library. I think he's quoting Rashi there, then says it's in the Bible.
And he married Rebekah. So he brings her into the tent and he married her. Well, in the Hebrew, what this word actually is took. This is yakia. Yakia at Rebekah. So he took. It's slang. You know, sometimes this word is used literally like, oh, you pick up something. Over 20 times in the Hebrew, this word is used as a slang word for sex. So he took Rebekah. He took her virginity, and so she became his wife. So here, him having sex with her, you know, he consummated and she became his wife. His Aisha, and he loved her. Beautiful. But he had sex with Rebekah. So she's not 3. There's no time here. She met him, then the servant had told her, and then he went inside, and then they, did the hanky spanky. He had sex with her. She was not 3. If she was 3, then the text...
So you laughing at your own joke.
Itself says that he directly penetrated a 3-year-old. Muslims don't believe that. They believe that he married her and then waited to have sex with her, just as the prophet did. This does not say that. This says that she had sex with him at that moment in time. A 3-year-old can't have sex with a man without risking...
Like to know and ache are both euphemisms for that in biblical language.
Yeah. The most striking, which is in Ruth, where Boaz took Ruth, she became his wife, and he went into her. But the actual Hebrew is like he penetrated her. So that one's like extremely explicit, like they just had intercourse. But it's the exact same formula as what's being used with Isaac and Rebekah here. You also get it with David and Bathsheba. That exact same phrase, exact same structure of he took her and she came into him. And then she immediately came impregnated. So the same language being used all over the Bible is also, I think, used in the law for like Deuteronomy and how it like differentiates between different, like if you take a wife versus if the like intercourse was forced. I think there's different words there for it, but it's used all over the place.
Yeah. Do you really want to say that the prophet Isaac that you revere as a prophet, as a Muslim, do you really want to say that he endangered his wife by risking her death by doing this? That he made love to a 3-year-old? Really? Now, Christians and Jews, we look at this text and we're like, oh, that's awesome. That's beautiful. Great. She was a woman, grown woman. She had the ability to choose to have consensual relations with her husband. Your view as a Muslim that she was 3, this doesn't work. That would be... because a 3-year-old cannot consent to relations. They just can't. So I created a syllogism to prove that she wasn't 3. Premise 1. If Rebekah was 3 years old when she married Isaac, the biblical text would support her birth being reported in Genesis 22, 20 through 40, and her actions and descriptions would be consistent with those of a 3-year-old. However, the Bible does not confirm her birth was part of the news in Genesis 22, 20 through 40, and her actions, drawing water for 10 camels, giving consent, veiling herself, and descriptions of her, the Nara, the Betula, the Alma, are inconsistent with a 3-year-old. Conclusion, therefore Rebekah was not a 3 years old whenever she married Isaac. It's that simple. There's absolutely no reason, linguistically, physically, behaviorally, culturally, textually, there's absolutely no reason to think that she was a 3-year-old. So with Rebekah not being a 3-year-old, which I think I've done a good job showing here, that she couldn't have been a 3-year-old based on the text, based on the Hebrew, and based on the Jewish context. She can't be a 3-year-old according to the text, and also the Jewish commentaries say that she's not a 3-year-old. So for sure, she is not a 3-year-old. Yet your da'is are affirming that she is 3. They're lying to you. What else are they lying about? Think about that. Are they lying about Jesus? Are they lying about the Bible and its corruption? Are they lying about the preservation of the Quran? Now, my answer to that is yes, they are. The Quran's not been perfectly preserved. The Bible has been preserved through its copious manuscripts and textual criticism. And Jesus is God. He claimed to be God. And God came down, he lived, and he died for you and for me. So really take this to heart. If you've made it this far, take this to heart. Think about it. Why is it that your da'is are lying to you? What do they want from you? Your attention, your money, what you can give them. What do they want to give you? Nothing. They just want to take from you. They don't care about the truth. They don't care about Islam. They don't care about you. They are fine with you burning in hell from their lies. Don't trust them. Read the Bible. Decide for yourself what is true. May the grace of the Lord Jesus Christ, the love of God, and the fellowship of the Holy Spirit be with you always.
Christian Gadfly makes a good point. There was no dolls mentioned at the scene.
Traded her dolls for her veil. That ending was pretty Islamophobic, man. Like, you were just talking about the Bible at first, and then you got all Islamophobic. Started talking trash about Dawa guys. Messed up stuff. Yeah. Messed up
One
stuff.
Thing, an additional thing to point out as well is, even if Isaac did marry her at 3, it doesn't matter to us as Christians because he's not our role model.
Or to
he's
Jews.
not the standard of morality. Or to Jews. He's not the role model for anyone. Muhammad is. So even if he did that, we would all just collectively condemn him as a PDF file. But instead, he didn't, so we don't condemn him. He just married a grown woman. But even if he did, Muhammad would still be evil for what he did with Aisha.
Yeah, and by the way, they go way beyond this, right? Because it's in their mindset. Oh, if someone in the Bible did it, therefore you're affirming it, which is already insane and false. But then they'll do it. Oh, did you know King so-and-so in 1252 married a 10-year-old? See, right. You can't complain about it. It's like it's weird how they take this, like anything like that, they'll take it seriously. It's like, okay, that king drank beer, so you affirm it? Eh? You affirm it, right? It's okay to drink alcohol because I can name a king who drank alcohol. Really? Seriously? Anyway, weird stuff. Weird, dumb stuff. Any extra thoughts on that before we go through these super chats?
Just a couple things to point out. As far as like the midrashic sources and what rabbis actually say, the Vilna Gaon, literally the like that means the genius of Vilna. Like he was one of the greatest rabbinic scholars of all time. I think the Talmud in some ways today, as we have it, was formatted by him. Like literally one of the most genius Talmudic scholars in Jewish history, does a whole accounting for a timeline, I believe, that starts with something with Joseph, that a date and a time is given and ages, and works his way back and arrives at the age of 14. And so he corrects the Midrash and says there's obviously some reason why they came up with this one, but, we're going to assume that the 14 is the correct calculation. And that's why all rabbinic scholars, with the exception of Rashi, for all time, have stated that she's likely 14 or in some cases older. Even the last rabbi of Lubavitch, who relied heavily on Rashi for a lot of his Hasidic discourses, does not affirm her literally being 3. he says it's an allusion to the fact that later in life, when she is portrayed in a negative light as being deceptive, we should view her as having the purity and honesty of a 3-year-old. Because there's the famous passage with Hakol Kol Yaakov Yadai Midei Esav, like the hands are those of Esau, but the voice is that of Jacob, the deception with the blessing. And we're not supposed to view her as deceptive. She was doing what she was supposed to do. And so we're supposed to view her how we would view the honesty and purity of a 3-year-old. That's where the Midrash is trying to point with it. So even those who rely on Rashi later on don't affirm a literal rendering of her being 3. Although my 3-year-olds are pretty deceptive, so I don't know if that tracks.
Yeah, they are.
Mm-hmm. 3-year-olds
so
are compulsive liars like Dawa guys. That's probably why Dawa guys lie so much. They never like intellectually grow past 3-year-olds.
Well, that rabbi who said that never had any children, so that's probably why he thought that way.
Didn't know. But we know. So we have the beard game here is strong, not in the zut sense. Not in the old zut sense. I think they're specifically talking about you, Ash. Daniel Pikachu and his Predator laptop. Yeah, that was classic for the. What was funny is before the debate, I was pointing like, oh, what is this? Look at this. He's got Predator on his laptop. But then everyone picked up on it. I didn't know what the resolution was going to be if people would pick up on it in the video. But yep, they did. Hakikaju is a Talmud specialist and Mossad agent. Yeah. And Malik's definitely a Mossad agent. Look at all the chaos he creates. Ash, I've been following you for a while. Great to see you working with the Dizzle. Y'all be blessed. You really ought to look up the Quality Learning Center, where your kids will learn from the best teachers. Oh, Minneapolis.
Chris, you have some hate coming up in the.
That's the Minneapolis thing, yeah. Yeah, all the fraud stuff. They do have the best teachers.
I think Chris has some hate in the super chats coming up for
what?
Ruining his child's teddy bear.
Ooh. Heck. Hang on. Why wasn't I taught this in Sunday school as a child? No one told me that I was the same age as Rebekah back then. That's true. When you were 3. D Wood, speaking of epic beards, have you ever thought to invite Jeff Durbin on the show? Don't think he'd be interested. I'm too
He's
mean.
pretty cool, though.
I'm too mean about Islam. Hi, I'm Mike Winger from Bible Learning Center. You got the Bible Learning Center. Their best teacher. The initial email lacked much. I've included full reference and annotation and a minimal facts presentation of the argument. It's much more persuasive now. I sent it to your email just now to save you digging through comments to find it. Interesting. That's on Muhammad as a salesman. The idea is Muhammad was a caravan trader, and he kind of learned how to pitch things to people, and then you applied it to religion. The name-eyed Rebekah Norris, get zooted.
You think she was Chuck Norris?
Hang on.
Only Chuck Norris could.
Oh, he fixed it.
Provide
the
water
name is
for 30
Norris.
camels.
Rebekah Norris. They're so dumb. Nick Fuentes. Rashi was based. Yeah, Nick would be like, did you know, according to his rabbi, you can bang a 3-year-old. That's the one thing I agree with these Jews on. Every time these Dawa guys make up lies, we should bring up Al-Zut and the Muhammad toothbrush stories and so many bad stories about Muhammad. No, the Al-Zut, I've mentioned this before. I warned them for the past few years. I said, guys, if you keep just flat out lying, which is what you're doing, if you keep flat out lying about, oh, the Catholic Encyclopedia says Mary was this, and oh, the Bible says Rebekah was 3. And I said, if you guys keep lying, I'm not going to tell Christians to lie in response. But I'll start sharing these stories in your books, and we're not going to be charitable in the interpretation, because that's what they demand, right? Oh, well, maybe it means this. Oh, maybe it means that. Why not interpret it charitably? And they just expect it from us when the stories sound really messed up and screwed up. And then we're nice, and we give the benefit of the doubt. Okay, no more benefit of the doubt then. We're going to quote your stories and we're going to go with what it sounds like, which is really, really messed up stuff. So guys, so these are connected. These are connected. That's why we went hard on the Zoot story, not the Zoot sense though. In an effort to honor Muhammad, Iran has abandoned phonics for the demonic cave choking method. Early reports are not promising, but they're committed. That's good to know. Abraham's servant stole a baby from a family of babies. You see, this is the proof. They're all babies, and he went and stole a baby from all the babies. Kikaju claims children are married to protect them from sexual immorality, but I've never heard of teen boys being married off. 1.8 doesn't satisfy. You can ask Aisha. If Rebekah was young bride, the Torah would use kala?
I don't know if that's... I'm trying to think of an example where the word kala is used in the Bible, but off the top of my head, I wouldn't be able to cross-reference it. That just means a bride.
Right.
Like if somebody's betrothed but not married kind of thing. Or
we have Rebekah Waterbender. That's from the water rising up. That's what we need to do. We need to have like an animation of what's actually required for their theory to work. Rebekah had miraculous strength to carry jars the same way Allah gave Momo the strength of 30 Zutmen. I don't know why Muslims are appealing to the Talmud to convince Christians. It's even more bizarre when you realize it's not even in the Talmud and they're just making stuff up. Yeah, that's dawah though. And keep in mind, it's not to convince us. It's to convince their stupid followers that we're being hypocrites for bringing this up because, we're not going with the Talmud on this. Really dumb stuff. Muslims may be trying to rattle off many such empty arguments just to take all eyes off the ball, not in the al-zut sense. Muslim fathers discuss me. How can you view your baby girl as a pleasure machine to be sold to the highest bidder? Never go full Muslim. Yeah, we don't put enough blame on Abu Bakr for the Muhammad. Yeah, Muhammad marrying her when she was 6. That should have been a big clue, dude. That should have been a clue that you're dealing with a false prophet who's just in it for himself. Instead, oh, cool, take my daughter. Is Rebekah carrying water for camels not enough proof? Hi, Mr. Wood. Hey, hi, Kit Kat for Christ. She was a teenager, period. That's true.
I think she was like in her 20s, actually.
Ash, I'm a former Orthodox Jew converting to Orthodox Christianity. Would love to connect. P.S. Did you know about Jesus in the Maxor?
Yeah, I responded to him in the chat. Basically, there's like an old manuscript of an old Maxor that they found. I forget if it was for Yom Kippur or Rosh Hashanah or whatever it was. One of the high holiday prayer books. And there's a prayer to Yeshua Sarhapanim and the angel Metatron, which is really interesting because the angel Metatron is what they use for the angel of the Lord to describe what that is in the Bible, whereas Christianity would say it's the pre-incarnate Christ. So it's very interesting that they're put together in a prayer in a Jewish text. I know that it's been kind of eliminated from any prayer books today, even the ones that had it as copies of the manuscript. And one rabbi, I think it was the Lubavitcher Rebbe, went as far as to say, I don't think he understood when the timeline happened. I think somebody had said, we found this in a machzor, and he thought it was like a contemporary thing. And his response to that letter was like, oh, like Christian missionaries, like evangelical, whatever, snuck in and like snuck it in there so people wouldn't notice. He didn't realize that it was like an 11th century manuscript with a prayer to Jesus, basically. Other rabbis have said it's a mistaken rendering of a typo. It's supposed to be Isaiah. And why would they be praying though to Isaiah for intercession? That doesn't really make any sense. So yeah, it's a very interesting little anomaly in Jewish history.
Hey, you guys have lots of cool words and names. Some of your words and names are like, they sound lame and weird, but some of them like Rambam, Maxor. Yo, what's up? The Maxor is here. Dave Wood, the Machzor.
You gotta put a ch in it. It's a machzor.
The Machzor. I mean, can you imagine a dude just walks into a, like a big action movie and dude, oh no, it's the Machzor, and he walks in, the Machzor is here. You'd be like, ah, darn right. How can anyone be taken seriously that wouldn't sew a tag back onto a bear? Valid point.
You'd have to buy those little. You'd have to buy those little plastic things in bulk from like Alibaba. Get one of them just to sew it back on.
Here you go. Look at Chris's cup. He, like Masab, has chosen the cow. Love to you, my brothers, Stephen, Chris. He chose the cow. Hang on.
Shabbos guy.
Hang on. According to Disney, Daniel Boone killed a bear when he was 3. Surely that's harder than carrying some water. He said 1950s lyrics. I grew up on that song. I had it on a little tiny 45 record when I was a little kid. And so the lyrics are, raised in the woods, so he knew every tree, killed him a bar when he was only 3. Davy Crockett, king of the wild frontier. Fell out of popularity because then it goes on to like him killing all these Indians and stuff like that.
This so reminds me of I have this friend. He's in Israel, also last name Boone. He's like from Idaho, and he found out when he was like 18 years old that he's technically Jewish, and immigrated to Israel, joined the army. He was in Golani. He's like a sniper in the Israeli army. Worked with me afterwards in security work, and he's a Messianic Jew living in Israel. And he has this story that was like legend in our security training course, and every time we'd go back for like requalification, like everyone's like, oh, that's the guy that like got attacked by a bear in Alaska and killed it.
Nice.
Because he has like all these wild hunting stories from like Idaho and Alaska.
Nice. Brothers, could you please do a stream solely showing how they misuse the Bible to prove their narrative and at the same time saying it's corrupted? Yeah, we tend to bring that up quite a bit. A specific stream, we'd have to wait to some them doing it in some epic fashion in some debate. But yeah, they always do this. They're the ultimate cherry pickers. Quran, Bible, doesn't matter. Talmud, church fathers, it does not matter. They will cherry pick anything they can use, and even if everything before it and after it and so on completely contradicts them, they do not care. Rough stuff. Jacob wasn't a PDF file. He controlled his zipper. I think that's a joke on the different files, PDF and zip.
Yeah.
Zip file. Okay.
Yeah.
A good quick video response to calling Israel a colonizer, time-lapse video of Israel and Muslim empires through time. What's a good quick video? You saying you want one?
Saying somebody should make like a time lapse of showing like the area being conquered over and over again since like 1st century Judea, probably.
Oh, little side note. Little side note. Chris, you should make a 10 to 12 minute version of that video. And then at the end, say, if you want to go into a lot more depth, not in the Zut sense, then go over to this other one. And then some super short version for like TikTok or X or something like that, where you link to the other ones or something like that. I'm just saying we gotta start making all this stuff unavoidable and have it in every different version of content based on people's attention spans. Is that took the same as the garden when Adam took the fruit? Bible Project talks about that a lot. Is it? I don't know. Have to look.
Yeah, but sometimes took is just
pulling up logos.
What are you saying? You're saying that he humped the fruit. Frank Turek did an interview with Jay Smith and asked him, what made you go all in on Muhammad? The joke alarm in my head rang wild. Yeah, would have been a perfect opportunity.
Is Jay Smith the Muhammad mythicist?
Yeah. Yep.
I remember I saw your stream on that with Raymond Ibrahim.
Mm-hmm.
And the next day my dad says, have you heard this guy who's like doing all this like really good scholarly work on how Muhammad never existed? I'm like, oh God. No, that's not true.
Hey, here you go. Wait till they claim perpetual 3-year-old Rebekah. She's a perpetual 3-year-old. She was always 3. She was born 3 and she stayed 3 forever. She's still 3 hiding in a cave somewhere.
Her dad was born 3 too.
Uh-huh. Has Muhammad hijab Allahud his last akbar? This is not gonna be a good year for Muhammad hijab. D Wood, it's leering, not learning. Oh, leering center. Okay, I apologize. Tell D
for
Wood.
The question for the apple, it never says that Adam took the apple. It just says Eve took the apple, and then says she gave it to her husband. Yeah. But that is the same word. So it's different grammar, but it's the same word for take.
So Eve.
Yeah, I was thinking this.
Eve humped the apple. Tell D Wood. Max. Mach. Wait, this is a different word.
No, it's the same word. Machzor also means menstruation.
No, I'm saying that was Machzor. This is Machzhor, which is correct.
I think they just misspelled it this time. It's Machzor, like Machzor.
Okay. All right. So yeah, I demand correct, precise spelling of these words. Anyway, tell D Wood Machzor also mean period. So won't yell it. What are you talking about? I just did. You just told me, and I still yelled it anyway. Machzor, what's up? Huh? The Machzor. Don't mess with the Machzor. That would be pretty intimidating if a guy came in and my name is period. What?
Make it bleed.
Oh God, man. Oh.
That took a turn.
'Cause I make you bleed. Abu Bakr gives me Lot vibes, throwing his own flesh and blood to Purs for his own honor. Yeah, he's pretty messed up. I thought Muslims say not 3. Oh yeah, we need to start saying that. Rebekah was 3. Hey, say not 3. Matter of fact, that'd be a good title for a short video. Say not 3. Muslims say not 3. Yeah, it'd be good. All right, guys. I got the link to both your channels in the description, and I got a link to Chris's full video there. I encourage everyone to share that video. And guys, keep in mind, if he's done the work, and now you've got the link to the video, it's very easy to go to a different, like X or something like that, and just search for Rebekah was 3. Look at all the stupid posts that pop up, and just keep sharing the video link with them with a quick little description. You just say absolute nonsense, blah, 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 blah. Here's the proof. Good stuff. Good stuff. All right. Final thoughts, guys.
Ash, do you want to plug your Rumble too?
Oh yeah, go. I have, since my fiasco that I finally got solved, I also started a Rumble and X. Same. It's also at Ash Maze. So you can go check that out as well.
Based. All right, Chris.
Just again, what I said in the video, if you are a Muslim watching this, if you've made it this far, why are your Dawa bros lying to you? Mm-hmm. And they're just outright lying. They know it's a lie. They've been corrected on it before. Mm-hmm. There's videos of them being corrected on it, and they still repeat it.
Yep.
So they're knowingly lying to you. Why are you trusting them? If they're willing to lie to you about something so insignificant, what else are they willing to lie about?
Mm-hmm. And yeah, the follow-up to, hey, why are your Dawa guys such liars? So that's one. And then, like, as we've already pointed out, who are they lying about? Well, here it's Isaac, it's Abraham, it's Moses. They're accusing all of them of being okay with, doing something to 3-year-olds. That's what Muslims who claim to respect all these guys are actually doing. So what is, they claim to respect all these guys. What's it mean? It means they really don't respect them, and they're willing to completely lie, and it's all for Muhammad. So if Muhammad is causing these guys to act like this, do you really think you got the true religion from God, or is it some antichrist demonic nonsense that's causing them to attack everyone like this? And then the third thing is, how come when this gets exposed over and over again, it doesn't seem to bother a lot of the Dawa fans? Like, you can see these guys lying over and over and over about Jesus, about Mary, about Moses, about Abraham, about Isaac, endlessly, and they can get exposed and it doesn't bother you. I have to say, I mean, if you want us to take you even seriously in anything you say, to at least believe that you are like somehow sincere doing this stuff, we can't take you seriously. Not now, not ever. And so, welcome to 2026, guys. Gonna be a fun year. A fun year. All right. Thanks everyone for watching, and catch y'all next time.